Motion approved.
And second? All in favor? Motion so carried. Can everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome tonight on this hot summer night. It's not summer yet, is it?
Oh,
Yes,
today.
Wednesday.
Was it today's first day?
Wednesday was the start of summer.
Okay, great.
Summer solstice.
That's right, we had the solstice last night, I forgot. Okay, I'm making a amendment to the agenda.
Well, we have to find
I'm
it.
trying to move the ethics to next week.
I'm making a
Because
mess.
last time we had the ethics conversation, it was about a 2-hour conversation in terms of some things we want to do with the law. I know that a number of us have issues with the law or with other things, and it'll be a long conversation. And I was supposed to be at 9 o'clock at Mohonk to welcome everybody for the EPA zero waste thing, but instead I was sick in the bathroom and
It's attractive.
didn't wake up until 12 after that and stuff. So in the attempt to sort of get through tonight's meeting and let me get home, I just think the ethics was just too much to do tonight. So Alan Stout was more than happy to come next week, said not a problem. So I would just like to amend the agenda to move the ethics to next week and then go from there.
I just have one request.
Sure.
I think that's a great idea, but in going through the billing for the ethics for the last 2 months, we have somewhere in the neighborhood of $2,500 worth of bills relative to the ethics law. And it would be wonderful if we could have memos about those findings and opinions that are referenced in the bills so that we don't have to pay Joe to sit here again next week and tell us what
The purpose of Joe coming here next week has nothing to do with those bills and those costs.
with the ethics law. These
Yes, well-
are bills about revising the ethics
Well,
law.
there's bills in there that are, about revising the ethics law, of which he probably did in consultation with the ethics board
No,
themselves.
they're town board bills.
And then there's also town board bills relative to the ethics complaint and him meeting with the ethics board
Right.
in executive
They're
session.
all built, they're billed out here. And I have spent a lot of time trying to track down which are the bills relevant to the ethics law that we're revising. And it's all here, and I just emailed you copies. Joe's secretary was very helpful in going through and putting town board, ethics board, so we know which is which. So, since a lot of this was research on conflict of interest and stuff like that, which is information we need when we look at the law, if we could have those opinions, whatever the results of that research was, in the next week, then we don't have to sit here and pay Joe again next week to explain it all to us. We paid for all the research here, right? So,
I mean, in terms of a conflict of interest, so for example, if...
no, I don't want to have the discussion
I don't want to
here.
associate this, I don't understand what
Here's-
you're asking, quite frankly.
What I'm asking is, we have a lot of billing here to research there's a 2 hours spent researching conflict of interest. So that's a policy that should be part of our ethics law that everybody understands, so that 5 years from now, if the ethics board needs to understand that policy, it's there, it's part of our policy,
Was-
we know what it is.
But I would suspect that whatever Joe gave to the ethics board, when they come back to review the law with us, which was the purpose of what we were going to do, is review the law, that will be included in there. So,
Well,
I mean, we don't know
it's
what
not-
we don't know what they're going to come back and recommend versus
Well,
what they
what is the
researched.
thing that was in our box today? Isn't that
I
the
wasn't
final
going to say,
version?
so I don't know what your...
Was in our box a couple
I,
of days ago.
I emailed you, when we were doing the agenda, I emailed you what Alan sent as the most up-to-date ethics law that they have revised after the last meeting with the town board, where everybody gave their input, and then people probably even emailed them, like Jean might have emailed them even more specific things, and so they then went back, had their own meetings, probably talked with Joe, researched certain concerns that different people had, and the purpose of tonight was for them to come, for us to talk about whatever changes they made, for us to talk
Right.
about what we
Well,
liked.
I looked at it, and it's exactly what was submitted to us when Alan came and we had the blue line version.
Uh-huh.
So that's, that appears to be, and I don't know, like, for example, here's 1.5 hours to, to research what is foilable, and open meetings, and executive sessions for the ethics law. So that's just information that, whatever those findings were, let's just have them available to the ethics board.
And we'll do all that next week, but that's not a problem.
But
I mean,
that's
some of
what
the
I'm
stuff-
requesting.
Some of the stuff
I'm
is,
just
some of the
saying.
stuff is your emails that you've sent to Joe, that he researched and
That's in
responded
here.
back to you.
That's in here.
So-
That was 0.2
So what are you
hours.
saying? So you're asking
I'm
that
saying
everything,
that
okay, so let me
something
just
that-
understand. Every bill that's in here, you
You're
want me
asking
to
me to
get.
explain, but you're not letting
No,
me
I'm just want to make sure if
explain
I
it.
understand it, 'cause,
Okay.
okay? Every bill that you want documentation in the back that the ethics board has for next week.
Everything that involves researching opinions,
Right.
I want a memo on those opinions so that we have them available for our policy and for the ethics.
Do we have that, Joe?
I don't think it's that easy. In part, you do, and I know what Kitty is talking about. Some of that about open meetings law, executive sessions, the rest of it, I don't know if you remember, but I think that goes back to sometime probably around April. It may have been that early.
Early
Okay, or
May.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, May. When the questions were coming up about if certain matters go to the ethics board, what happens? Can they go into executive session when the thing comes back? Can this board go into executive session? When can you properly call an executive session? What's foilable, et cetera? I don't know if you remember the meeting, but at that meeting, I did have with me copies of things. They were reprints of opinions.
Right,
of,
I've got that.
The comptroller.
Right.
Reprints of opinions of Bob Freeman from the Committee on Open Government. There were some questions, there were some boiler or suggested format
Yep,
about what an ethics
yep.
should do.
Tips
you
for
kind of have
drafting
a lot of the
advisory
benefit of that
opinions.
research already.
Well,
I mean, I
these
can put the
bills
package
are,
together again.
right, but these bills are after the meeting where you handed out these materials, so,
There
Some
might
are,
be,
some
I
might
didn't
not
go
be.
through them
right.
day by day, but I know
Right.
there was a fair amount of stuff that we talked about.
Right,
at that
so
meeting.
this is for April, and we have the April, but there's so much research here.
Yep.
And if you found opinions that should be part of our policy, I would like to just have them. I'd like to have the ethics board have them. And I don't know how the town board has a policy. We have an ethics law,
Right.
but I don't know how we have a policy. And it seems to me there's a lot of work done here helping us develop a policy. And so I'm just hoping, I'm glad we're putting this off for a week, so that if you found opinions, if there's a memo you can give us that we can look at and study up on for next week, that would be great.
Well, he can pull together whatever he has, but I think some of it
Then I'll give
is,
you what we have.
I think some of it is the fact of, I don't think we really do have an actual policy. We have the law, but the policy.
Exactly.
And so part of some of these bills are myself and Joe talking about, questions of something being right, something being wrong, and then saying, well, it's not really necessarily written down, or maybe it's not interpreted right. And so, quite frankly, these past couple of months, I think a lot of, I don't want to say failure, I don't know if that's the right word, I think a lot of weaknesses of the ethics board and how we deal with it and how we move forward with it and how we adopt even opinions and how that's handled has sort of come to light through these past couple of months. And so at next week's meeting, a lot of those like questions you've had and answers you've gotten, questions I have, and whatever, things that Jean has brought up, maybe things that Kevin has, that Jeff has, will all be part of the conversation next week. And a lot of it comes out of conversations of what was given back to all of us and whatever, so.
Okay, I guess my point is that I'm assuming that a lot of this is answering those questions. So what I don't want to see happen is, we come back next week and if there are opinions that you found that are relevant to our questions, if we could just have them so we know what we're going into next week, so we're not sitting here reading it at the public's expense for half an hour, that would be great. Okay.
I'll need to know the questions.
Okay, I mean, I've highlighted them, you know, I can easily send you a memo and just
Maybe-
highlight the ones.
If you have questions, if you send them to me, it might help me identify
Okay.
what you need.
Will
But
do.
one of the things that I suspect that we're going to talk about next week is maybe when something goes to the ethics board, when they do what they're supposed to do, render an advisory opinion, what happens after that? When it comes to the town board, what then does or should the
Right.
town board do when it gets?
Well, there's even a
Am I
question
right?
about where does that opinion go? Does it first go to the town board? And that seems to be a question. I mean, tonight we were supposed to accept the opinion. But,
I mean, under our local law, the place where it goes from the ethics board, it's an advisory opinion.
right,
Well-
It goes straight to the town.
Anyway.
So then the question is maybe once it gets here, what can it?
Well, there's more, this is why I really like to have the
But
thing
I'll
next
give you
week,
something.
because a lot of us have different opinions. I've spoken with you at length. Kitty's asked questions through emails. She might, you know, I might disagree on what we think is right or wrong. There are certain policies that are not in place, so these kind of confusions don't happen. And so therefore, to me, what was evidently clear is, A, there are not policies in place, and B, I have a problem with some ways of how opinions are handled or have been handled in the past, and things that I would like to see changed, because I'm unhappy with things that were done in the past. So that's why I would like this conversation to be next week, because then next week we will talk publicly in an open meeting about how we want to proceed and what we'd like to change or not change as we move forward.
okay.
And
So
But if
originally,
you have particular question, shoot them to me.
I
I'll
will,
do my
I will.
best.
I will highlight on the bill and just say,
Okay.
is there a memo that goes with
Okay,
this?
and I'll do my best. to
Thank you.
send
Okay,
something.
thanks. So with that, if that's okay, let's move the ethics to next week, and is there any other changes to the agenda?
Yes, I want to respond to Joanne Toledo's letter about employee
Well,
smoking.
it's on employee designated smoking area, town hall. It's on the
Okay, I didn't know
agenda.
if that was it.
It's on the agenda.
And I don't know if we really need to talk about all these committee reports. I didn't
No,
get any.
What we're going
but
to do, well, they should have been all emailed to you, but
Did anybody get them?
they should be all emailed to you. I have hard copies all here.
I didn't get them.
There's all hard copies here, but usually they all get emailed, but I'll double check that tomorrow.
Okay.
But what the plan is, actually for tonight, Kitty, is not to go through all the reports, to basically just ask everybody if they read them, if they have questions, and then if anybody wants to do an update on the committee reports, and then go from there,
Okay.
okay?
So the only other thing, I know we can't deal with this in one night, but I would really like to start talking about a government center
That's gonna be
at
on the
the
agenda
middle
for next
school.
week.
It is?
Yes, that's
Thank
going to be on the
you.
agenda for next week.
Okay.
The only reason why it wasn't on the agenda for this week was because when I thought we were going to do ethics, the last time we talked ethics, we talked 2 hours, and I suspect the next time we talk ethics, we can talk 2 to 4 hours. And so I didn't think doing the middle school and ethics the same night was probably a smart way to
Okay, it just
manage
seemed
the
like
meeting.
a workshop subject
Well, I know.
rather than, but.
Well, no, well,
okay.
actually, I've since spoken to bond counsel, and he actually suggested that I do a resolution for the town board to authorize us to start working in a very concrete fashion on having discussions. It's like almost authorizing us to have the discussions so the right people can call and talk to people. So we will put it
Okay.
on, you know, so we will
Good.
put it on next week, and while it might be a workshop thing because of, you know, because Stacy had things she wanted to talk about tonight, because we had some other things with the wetlands that we had to take care of, because I thought the ethics would really be very consuming. I didn't want the middle school project, which I thought could also, the government center, be a little bit more consuming for us to be here till 3 in the morning. So I'm trying to manage the agendas in a way that.
I understand. I'm just a little concerned about getting a resolution before we've had a
Well, I haven't
workshop
done it or even
discussion.
written it, so, but you
Okay.
want it on the agenda and you want us to talk about it because you support it, so,
Well, I want to talk about it,
yes. Okay.
just generally, informally, before
Yeah.
there's a
Okay,
resolution.
but we don't have to adopt it or accept it or whatever, so
Okay.
don't worry about it. We're not going to do anything but have a conversation. And
All right.
then go from there, okay? So,
Okay.
anything else? Anybody? So can I have the motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
motions are carried. Okay, public input. Fine, thanks.
I'm gonna read this, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm tired.
I think we all are.
It's brutal out there. On March 22nd, 2012, 3 people died and 27 houses were destroyed because a prescribed burn got out of control.
Chris, could you talk just a little bit louder, please?
Louder? On March 22nd, 2012, 3 people died and 27 houses were destroyed because a prescribed burn got out of control. In all, it burned more than 4,000 acres and caused more than $11 million in property damage. What's so scary is that this fire started out as a 50-acre prescribed burn, the exact same size that the Mohonk Preserve conducted in the Duck Pond area this April, less than 1 month after this catastrophic fire that caused the Colorado governor to ban prescribed burns. Even scarier is that it was conducted by one of the burn partners of the Nature Conservancy, the very same organization that Carol Lee works for, and the same group that is burning with the Mohonk Preserve. It's irresponsible for the Mohonk Preserve to put our homes, families, and children at risk by burning in a residential area. I'm here tonight to ask the town board to ban prescribed burns in the town of New Paltz. And there's all of the letters that have been coming into the newspaper for the past 2 months show that there's public support for this. I also have a list that I'll email everybody and that you'll read in this coming issue of the New Paltz Times of all the prescribed burns that have gone out of control recently.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Tova?
Basically, I want to keep the topic of backyard chicken in zone R1 visible and audible. I understand from Susan that you may talk about it next week's meeting.
The intent was to have it on the agenda for next week.
But?
It's not really a but, it's just my only concern is, I just have to manage the agenda in a certain way, and we can still keep it on, it's just that I know that because we're gonna put the ethics on, that's gonna be a long conversation, and then we have other things that were held off for next week, so we do have a law that was given to us that we can review a little bit. Whether we make a decision next week, I don't know, but it'll be on the agenda. I just don't know how much time and how depth we can get into it because of some other things, but it was intended to be on the agenda next week. And
So can you clarify a little bit to me, because this is my only way of conversing with
Sure.
the board, the nature of the process, even if you start talking about it, what would be the next step?
well, you gave us at the last meeting, we were reviewing a law that had been drafted prior, I think, by the
know.
town. Okay, so then you gave us the new law. So now all of us will have had time to read that law, and hopefully at the next meeting, we'll be talking about the possibility of looking at the law you gave us, and then the board will have to decide collectively how they want to move forward.
At the request of your lawyer, Mr. Moriello, I emailed him a model of ordinance. You got it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So should I, once again, to do my homework, to better facilitate this whole discussion, should I bring more information, the number of towns that have adopted this ordinance, other aspect of the conversation?
Anything that you think helps to convince some of the board members who might not be supportive of the idea to change their mind never hurts. But right now, what you did give us was a law that seems to be a more workable law for some of us than the law that was provided previously. And so hopefully we'll look at that law, discuss that law, and then whatever other information you think that would help us as we navigate this decision always helps.
And usually, once you start a conversation, is it in the next meeting that you have a vote? Is it open to the public?
No.
No?
I mean, we probably have to have a public hearing before we even,
We'll set a public hearing based on, we've all had a chance to review the Pinellas County law, and I'm guessing that next week we will probably ask our attorney to draft that into a law
well,
for the town.
that's if there's support.
If the town
there's
board
three-
supports it. If the town board votes to ask the attorney to use that Pinellas County law as a model law for the town, then when it comes back to us, we will set a public hearing, and everybody in the town will come and talk about it, and we will either adopt it or hold a public hearing over while we consider its comments if we find problems.
Okay, last residual question. Do you need a consensus of board members?
You need three.
A simple
You need
majority.
three.
You need three board members,
All right, thank you
so
very
you
much.
can start counting.
How am I gonna vote?
I just don't know how to count. I don't know how I'm going to vote.
There you go.
So,
I don't know how I'm going to vote either. I don't know enough about it.
I know, that's why we're going to do these three board members, you know? So, okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants public comment? Ira?
Thank you.
Yeah, how I feel about it.
There are 2 parts.
Speak up, speak up.
In 2010, a new law was added to ADA. That law requires public and municipal pools to have a handicap wheelchair ramp that goes into the pool. It also requires a hydraulic lift chair into those pools.
Wow.
Now, that law went into effect in 2010. You have until January 2013 to have it implemented. Now, obviously you're not going to have it for this season, but I bring it up now because you really don't have the luxury, if you will, of waiting till next season. Because you can't do it during the winter, blah, blah, blah. I can understand that. But the deadline for this was extended, and it's now January 2013 is the deadline. So I'm bringing that to your attention just so you're aware of it, number one. Number two, the other thing that's been bothering me
Is that a copy of the law?
No, it's a copy, well, it's about the law. I'll
Okay,
be more than
yeah,
happy to.
just 'cause we'll have it if we put it on the
Could you
agenda for
just-
next,
Yeah.
I can actually, I will talk about that later.
Okay.
Yeah, also the ADA, basically, I know you don't have speakers, and I know you don't have a loudspeaker, but the ADA does require that the town board use speakers and enhanced sound for people who are hearing impaired. Now, I know you've been using it on and off and on and off, but it is a requirement, so I'm bringing that to your attention too. Thank you.
Well, I had actually, honestly, we had thought about us trying to get microphones and stuff, just so, because of the problem with this or whatever, but
I know,
thank you
you
for
know,
bringing
right
that to
now,
our attention.
it's like,
Yeah.
you usually, but now you got the fans going, so it's a problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the first order of business, which is the building inspector, Stacy, who came to speak with us. And I don't
Does
know
anyone
if
have
she-
any announcements?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. I forgot that. Does
No,
anybody
you,
have-
no.
I actually had some announcements, so I'm putting them off till next week, because I just put them off till next week. 'Cause
No, I thought you did, no, okay. yeah, so
I
you
actually,
have
no,
on the agenda.
I did have some announcements from the community partnership, but I'll do it next week. But does anybody else have
Just
any
that
other
the
announcements?
community center and the Jewish community center have been open as cooling stations from 2 to 5. So whenever there's an excessive heat warning, as there has been for the last few days, check the town website. Carol Connolly has been updating it to let you know that you can come to the community center to cool off, and also the Jewish community center is offering the same option from 2 to 5 daily.
And also a big thank you to Bill Russell and Matt Suits, who got staff together for today and opened up Moriello Pool at 2 o'clock. And I talked to Bill on the way here, and they were as busy today as they were on any summer day. They were actually shocked at the pool.
Good.
And in fact, everyone's able to find out about it, and
Great.
it's good to have it open.
Yeah, and thank you for arranging that, Jeff.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we can't do it tomorrow, so everyone knows too, is that it is being used by the new Paltz Middle School. It's been going on, that tradition's been going on for,
Oh, for
Kitty,
the
how long?
graduation.
Since my kids went to the middle
so
school.
for many, many years it's been going on. So so everyone knows too, the middle school does pay for that. The school district does pay for the usage of the pool for that day. They do cover the expenses of the operating the pool and all office staff. So that is paid for by the middle school. So they'll be using it all day for their barbecue and swim party.
Great, thanks. Thank you. Any other announcements? Everybody okay? Okay, Stace? Stacy, our building inspector, par excellence.
I read every word.
Station.
Yes. You read every page? Good.
Well, every other. Well,
You know, it's good if you can understand it all.
can you? Can you explain it to us?
I read it all.
Well, that's why I
Okay,
gave you the memo.
So let's just,
Okay.
just for the purposes of the viewing audience and the people in the audience, the first thing we're talking about with the building inspector is a floodplain mitigation grant available through the state that the town has to take action on. And if Joe, we need Joe at the table, let us know.
Oh, you may.
Okay, Joe, do you want to join us at the table?
Okay, so this came up in, I guess, early in the year, in January, February, and at the time, we didn't have anybody, to my knowledge, that was interested in any grants or anything that was being offered, so the board didn't take any action. Since
So
then.
maybe you should just explain that this is a program that people can sell.
For the state?
This is a program that the state Department of Homeland Security received grant money, okay, for acquisitions and mitigations for people that were, damaged, okay, with the storms last year, okay. That's what it is. And way back when, we didn't have anybody. Now we have some people that are interested in applying for these grants. However, the Department of Homeland Security cannot deal directly with homeowners, so it has to be done through the municipalities. Okay? Understanding that municipalities can't afford to do things for, residents,
Somebody's
There-
thinking.
we all know what the economic times are. All the legwork and all the paperwork gets done, that's what the municipality puts into it, okay? The municipality is the one that actually applies for the grant on behalf of the homeowner. The homeowner has to issue a letter of intent, okay? And you got two different things going on. You got acquisitions, which means that the property is sold to the town and demolished, and it remains as open space or parkland, okay, forever. And then you have mitigation, kind of like what Karen Cathers did. She raised her house a
Right.
few years back.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking two different things. So in the memo I gave you, I tried to explain it as simple as possible.
Mitigation money could be used for demolition.
The mitigation, no. The acquisition money is used for demolition, okay? And we can talk about acquisitions first. Let's see. Okay, like I said before, the town has to apply for the grant on behalf of the homeowner. The homeowner has to give us a letter of intent, okay? That yes, they want the property acquired, yes, they're willing to go through everything they need to go through to have this done, okay? The homeowner has federally backed flood insurance. Not all flood insurance is federally backed. If they have federally backed flood insurance, they apply for ICC, which is called Increased Cost of Compliance Insurance, okay? They meet the qualifications, which with an acquisition they would. That's what they're telling me. Okay, I haven't done this, haven't gone through it. This is what I'm being told, okay? They will get up to $30,000 to put towards the acquisition, okay?
Wait. Ju-
The homeowner. This is all the homeowner.
First step.
There's this first step.
Okay, but not for the acquisition price. That's
No,
just for the
no.
legwork and.
Okay. The grant for acquisitions pays 100% the fair market value of the property prior to the
Damage.
devastation. Okay? If they're approved. Now, somebody could apply for the grant and not get approved. Okay? They have to have an appraisal done. They have to be deemed substantially damaged by the local official as well as by Department of Homeland Security or whoever it is that they send out. The homeowner has to want the acquisition, and they can't have received any FEMA monies for that particular event. Okay? If they get approved and acquired, okay, they have to pay the town the cost for the demolition of the structures to clean the property up. That's where they take the monies from ICC, okay, and pay for. So
They who?
the
They the
landowner.
homeowner or
Yes.
they the state?
They the homeowner,
Okay.
okay, when they get the money from ICC, okay,
This 30,000?
up to
or-
$33,000.
And that's totally separate from the
The grant.
purchase price.
And it's what, yes, okay. The purchase price is coming from the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay.
The ICC is coming from FEMA.
Allows them to pay for the cost.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
okay. That allows them to pay the town for the cost of demolition and cleanup,
Okay.
okay? And at that point, the land is turned over to the town, all money is supposedly exchanged during the closing. Okay, we do all the legwork. That's the town's contribution to the grant. For elevations, okay, it's basically the same thing. However, the landowner is required to match 25% of the grant. Okay? The landowner actually has to come up with money for the actual mitigation. But that monies, again, would come from ICC if they qualify.
So if somebody's house was completely flooded and there was mold and all that stuff, so they ripped everything out and replaced it, but did not get FEMA money, but everything is fine now, would they be eligible, or does the house still have to be in the
It has to be in
original
disrepair
disrepair?
now.
Okay.
It has to be in disrepair now. And I can tell you, you have to understand how this coordinates with our floodplain law. Because our floodplain law says that if your house is substantially damaged, which is 50% or more of the fair market value,
Which is exactly what this says.
that's correct,
Right.
okay? Because this law was,
Mhm.
you know, researched quite a bit and a lot of FEMA stuff came in. That you cannot rebuild unless you have access through the floodplain along the road, and the elevation can't be more than 1.5 feet below the base flood elevation. Well, we have some preliminary shots that were taken at certain points, but we certainly don't know the elevation of that road throughout the floodplain. So we don't know if anybody would be able to be rebuilt, if everybody could rebuild.
When you say that road,
I'm mainly talking about Springtown Road.
Okay.
Okay, because that's where this is mostly affects. The areas of Springtown, Doug,
is that where these applicants?
yes.
Okay.
So, you know, our law says we really don't, what the law says is we really don't want you to rebuild if you're substantially damaged and don't have safe access. Okay? And the grant is at least,
Mitigating.
it's mitigating it, so it's doing what our law wants it to do, and it's affording the homeowners the monies for the loss of their property. So, and in order for me to apply for these grants on the behalf of the homeowners, I need some kind of approval from you guys. I need some kind of resolution.
You actually, I think you just used the wrong word because you said
Yeah,
that
I
you
need a resolution.
resolution, not a referendum.
Right,
Right.
sorry.
So you need a resolution from us in
I
order
need
to
a
allow you
resolution.
to,
To apply for grants on behalf of these people.
and you have two people
Okay.
who, and you have two
I
people.
have two people. I have one is an acquisition and one is a mitigation. You know,
Okay, and the deadline is June 30th.
The deadline is June 30th.
Okay, so you need a resolution within 9 days.
Right.
Just wanted to
Okay.
hear tonight.
That's fine,
How
because we
about
do
that?
have next
What,
week's.
you
10
have one ready?
minutes.
No, we do have next week's meeting.
So
Okay.
what, how long, I mean, why can't we do it tonight?
Well, do
Do
we
you have
want
a
to,
resolution?
We have an attorney.
well, do we also want to look in to see if there's more than 2 properties too? I
They,
wonder-
well, they have to send a letter of intent,
Yeah.
so either they have or they haven't.
Let
Well,
me
they
ask
also have to
this.
know that this is in place, so I'm wondering if there's properties that we,
Understand where our law is written?
Wait.
A lot of people don't even want to call me
Right.
because they're afraid of what I will find.
But
So
you've
I don't know
also
what's
said
out there.
that probably it might not be as bad as people think.
It may not, I mean, I don't know, you know, I'm
So,
not out there.
Let me
I
ask
don't know.
one question. Does the resolution have to be relative to the specific properties, or is it a resolution enabling us to authorize the building inspector to apply in general?
I don't know.
Let's just see.
This
probably
this
tell us
is new
in
to
here.
me.
Here, do you want
Is
to read it?
is there, I read the memo,
Oh.
but I'm not familiar with everything else.
Oh, well, it's over
Is there a
here.
draft Is there a draft
looking to
form?
see.
Oh, I didn't see the attachments.
I think the only thing that's attached to that is
Is
the
there a
the
form resolution?
application. No,
Well, usually they
there,
do
there
that.
wasn't one.
That's hard to believe. I mean, I believe
Say
it,
that.
but can't believe they
No, I would
didn't.
think that there'd be a separate resolution.
I mean, I would be prepared for us to make a resolution that we authorize the town attorney to work with the building inspector to draft a resolution, and have it, I guess, we want to wait until next week.
I mean, I have until June 30th to submit the application for the grant. All I have to do is fax it up to them, they will accept it. I mean, so we do have until next week to,
But that's the 28th.
yes.
You feel comfortable with it waiting a week?
I mean, can a resolution be as simple as making a motion to
Will the
authorize?
resolution violate the flood law?
No, I think the resolution.
No, I think you're
supports it.
trying to get people who, a viable form of restitution for people who can stay in the area. Except it does raise a question about the people that are not looking for acquisition. Oh
But
no, their
the
house is still
mitigation, I
in
mean-
repair, disrepair, and they're looking to elevate.
Right.
Okay, so clearly, we know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, some of them
They're
will
gonna elevate.
Right. Which is a good thing.
Yes, it
I would
is,
like
but it
to
also
actually-
means that they do have access.
Right.
Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting here talking to us about it. Because they
They have to
wouldn't be
prove, they
allowed.
have to prove they have access.
Right, but otherwise, if they got the grant, they wouldn't be able to elevate unless they had access. I'm
Right.
sure you would tell them
Yes.
that ahead of time.
Well, they have to, yes.
Okay, that they were spinning their
Right, But if
wheels.
they get
Gee,
that they
wouldn't-
can't mitigate,
she
they
wouldn't tell
can,
them.
they can sell.
I would tell them
No,
they have
wait.
to show that they have, they have to prove to me they have access.
Right, Stacy is doing, it's two different things. So one applicant flat out wants to do the demolition of their property and leave it open space forever. The other one wants to go for elevating their property, they want to stay in
I
their home.
understand.
Okay, so I don't think that means that if then they get awarded the elevation portion of the grant, and then Stacy goes there and says, oh, but you don't have access, that they get to turn around and say, okay, well, I'll just do
But
acquisition.
that's assuming that Stacy would submit the application without making them verify they have access.
Just because we make the application for the grant doesn't mean, A, we're gonna get it, B, we're gonna use it.
Gene, what you don't see right now is the homeowner has the burden of establishing they have access,
Right,
which means they have to demonstrate that they have the ability to get out on a road which is not 1.5 feet below the 100-year flood level. So
right.
that's all Springtown Road.
Okay, well,
All
I
of
feel like the
Springtown Road
people,
basically puts you out.
Well, no, somebody would have to shoot the road.
Right.
Somebody would have to shoot the elevations of the road out of the floodplain, okay, in order to demonstrate that they have access.
But if they can't, then they
Everyone-
can go, I mean, if you're saying they get
Go to Springtown Road?
100% of the
Fair market
pre-damage,
value.
fair market value, which I assume we go by assessment rolls?
No, it's fair market.
It's fair market value, it's gonna have
But
to be
it's
appraised.
100% pre-damage, right?
Yes, so it'll have to be appraised.
I mean, it's,
Our law
I
says
don't know
the
what I'm
same-
missing, but it sounds to me like if your house was damaged and you don't have the access or egress, and you have the opportunity to get a few $100,000 to buy a house somewhere else.
You have to be substantially
in your family
damaged,
for
which is
300 years.
50%.
Well, then
You
you're
don't wanna
willing,
leave.
then you're willing to take the risk of, perpetual flooding. But if you don't want to,
You have to, you have to be substantially damaged, which is 50%, okay?
and it has to still be in that state of disrepair.
Yes.
Well, I get, and I don't think anybody has problems with the one who wants to have the house bought, that's not a problem. The only question, I'm sorry,
We didn't have the widespread devastation like they did in, northern Ulster County, Greene County, things of that nature.
so the only thing I'm just trying to say is one person wants to be bought out, fine, we authorize it, you apply, hopefully they get the money, they get to be bought out, they move on, they live happily ever after. The problem is more with the person who might want to do the fixing up, and is the mitigation, and is there any way, I mean, for somebody to go through an incredible amount of time, energy, and expense to prove that they actually, at the end of the day, can't have the access, sort of seems like an unfair burden in some way. I mean, is most likely, from what I understand and hear, I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, but my understanding is, from what I've been told, is there's really no body on Springtown Road that probably truly has access and doesn't fall under, that road being too low. So, I mean, at the end of the day, are we giving this person false hope that they might have the opportunity to do this when really at the end, they really might not be able to? Or is there something we could do to help them figure this out before they go through this time expense? I don't know, I'm just...
I have an idea. I think we should talk to Mr. Clauser and see if he'd be willing to go and shoot Springtown Road the whole length. And that would provide the information to the town board and to the residents that they really need going forward so they can make decisions. I think it's also critical that the residents understand that this option's available to them. A lot of residents are afraid to come to you because they're afraid you're going to say that their house that their family's lived in for 300 years is substantially damaged and they have to leave. So at least if they know that there's an opportunity or a mechanism for them, then they won't take that flood money to do the repair or start the repair until they examine this as an alternative rate.
Yes, there's also a trigger with mitigation, is that if you've had repeated claims, okay, you would be eligible. There are some people on Springtown Road that got hit recently that didn't have any claims prior, so when they tried to get ICC monies, okay, to do repairs, to mitigate, they couldn't get the monies because they didn't have the repeated
Prior claims.
So there is that trigger too.
I think Mr. Clauser could help us.
Well, I guess the question I would want to ask is, how big of a project is it, and how long would it take to be able to do the work of assessing Springtown Road? Because there's a deadline for this in terms of at least this grant.
Just the profile of it is, we've set
Dave, can you come closer so the camera A can hear you and we can hear you, and that you get picked up on the microphone?
When we were working on the floodplain law, we set benchmarks. Pinekill Drive was one of the roads that we couldn't tell from FEMA's mapping whether that was in or out. So we set benchmarks down Springtown Road, went around Pinekill to Doug. Set those so people could have elevations based on FEMA's data, vertical data, so they could tell whether they were in or out, basically. Pinekill was out by like 1.5 feet. It was close. We haven't done anything from Doug on north up to Craigswood or whatever. It's not a big deal to do a profile. We have the benchmarks for that first more than half of it. It's a matter of, we would also suggest setting benchmarks on that last part of it so there'd be permanent markers there for the residents.
So Dave, you were talking about starting at maybe Doug and working your way north, maybe past Plutarch?
Oh, no.
No, not Plutarch, don't
No,
go
not
by.
far.
Plutarch is
How far?
You mean
Not
Craigswood?
Plutarch.
He would-
Portuguese.
Craig,
You would have to go to the town, you would have to
Not
go to the
Plutarch.
town line. You'd have to
Go to the town line.
Which is Portuguese land, basically.
well,
Which
does
is
it flood
Portuguese land?
above,
Just beyond that, not
does
far.
So-
it flood above Craigswood?
Craigswood has a dip in it. Yes,
Right,
it
but
floods.
if you,
Kenny was asking if it floods above Craigswood.
right, I mean, you're right, you can't get down, right, it floods between,
I understand there's a low spot at the Bradley Farm.
which is Craigswood.
There's
Past
a low
Craigswood.
spot on the west side of the rail trail on
Right.
Craigswood.
Yeah.
What I would propose is that Mr. Claus, if it's not too expensive, shoot that spot too, so we know what that is. So you're talking about shooting from Doug to Portuguese?
To Portuguese, well, actually, to the
So-
Bradley
And he's
Farm,
got
it
it, and
sounds
up,
like.
and he's gotta
How
go
long
up
would that
Doug.
take and what would it cost?
Up-
Up Doug.
To go that route and set benchmarks is probably $1,500, yes.
Right, and could you also then offer the homeowners, if they wanted to, as an option, the ability for you to shoot 1 or 2 spots on their property?
As long as that was part of the town's project.
That would be an interesting option for homeowners.
Okay, so if we were going to undertake doing this, then what would make sense to do is for, maybe I can authorize you and Dave to work together, or I don't know what, it just seems if we're going to do this, then what we should be doing is letting the residents that could benefit from this, let the residents of Springtown, just like we wrote to all the Sewer 6 people, write to the residents who are affected, let them know we're going to be doing this benchmarking, letting them know that this grant is available, letting them know that there's very limited time, and that while we're out there doing the work, that if they're interested, to contact you to find out more information, but that basically we only have like 2 weeks to turn this around, and if they're interested, and sort of like get a letter out very quickly that explains what this is all about, and get Dave to start doing the work, and then hope by next week, if there's any additional people, I suspect we could do a resolution that's just a generic one that says that the town of New Paltz
Yeah.
was willing to engage in helping the homeowners of New Paltz who want to partake in this grant, be able, partake in the grant and have the building inspector authorized to.
Yeah,
Now, Stacy, our resolution is due by the 30th. The letter of intent. from
The letter of
homeowner-
intent, I have to have faxed to the Department of Homeland Security on the 30th, no later than the 30th.
So the resolution, along with all the letters of intent, need to be submitted by the
Yep.
30th.
if we pass the resolution tonight, and it gets in the newspaper, and you send out the letters, then that gives homeowners, a couple of extra days to contact you, and that wouldn't be part of the resolution, but we can say that the town is authorizing up to $2,000 for the town engineer to shoot the road so we can finally get the elevations.
You're looking for benchmarks on that section. If we were to profile, how much of Springtown Road, I guess, is my question. How much of that do you want shot?
Well, it's not relevant up to Doug Road because of the A1 district.
It's relative all the way through the floodplain. So where the zone line changes from the flood fringe to the A1.5 or the A3 district, we don't need to go into the A1.5
Right.
A3 district.
Exactly.
It's only relative in the floodplain, because the floodplain law does not affect an A3 or an A1.5 district,
Except for subdivision.
except for subdivision. We're not talking about subdivisions. So we would need the rest of Springtown until we get out of the floodplain, which is to the town line, that portion of Craigswood, and we'd have to go up Doug till we get out of the floodplain, which
You
is
already-
almost to Kleinkill.
You already did
We
that.
have
We did
benchmarks up there.
part of it, not all of it.
We made a loop and connected back on roads.
This would
Stacy,
help.
I'm surprised that we need to go all the way to the town line, because I know so many residents of Springtown Road have said, if they're north of Bradley's Farm, that they can get to Tilson.
If it's in the floodplain, then the floodplain law applies, which means that they have to prove that they have access.
Okay,
So we have to go all the way to the edge of the floodplain.
all right, so let's do this.
Okay.
It actually
So-
improves your map.
Okay, so before we just move forward, I think you had a quick question?
Yeah, just in the interest of saving town dollars, what's the purpose of doing the elevations on Craigswood, since all of those lots can't be subdivided anyway?
You would just be doing it on that one section that floods, so you would know where it is. And that data would be useful for the town going forward. The town in the future might decide to raise that portion of the road,
Gotcha.
which eliminates the problem,
Right,
just as a hypothetical.
right, that makes sense.
Okay, great. So,
And then possibly using the rail trail as some sort of maybe emergency exit. So since that's above I know Kitty had suggested that over in the Rocky Hill area one time.
We don't have a rail trail there, but
What's that?
we don't have the rail trail at the Rocky Hill area.
No,
But I
no.
have always advocated for use of the rail trail where it is available as an emergency access.
Yeah.
But
We did talk about that with some of the homeowners
Right.
at the beginning.
the problem
So-
is, I think it's after this dip.
Yeah, but it's not much. I mean, it wouldn't
Okay.
involve raising
All right.
that road
No, you can have my
very
copy.
much.
So-
And that would bring you actually all the way out. And all, by the way, just so you guys know, from a geographic point of view, Portuguese and all of those roads, even lots on Springtown could access that rail trail and actually get out to Tilson, and it would also allow the Tilson Fire Department to come in that way also. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I've actually driven on
Right.
it before, lots of people have. You know, to get
Bicycled
out.
on it before.
What's that?
Biked on it before.
Unfortunately, the rail trail is not a public highway, so it's not,
Well, we could
the way
designate.
we would have to change the law.
Well, it does say that it's available for emergency vehicles.
The law does?
Yeah, it's in the conservation easement. So,
No. The floodplain law, okay, says that you have to have access along the public highway. The rail trail is not a
Okay.
public highway.
gotcha. I thought
But
you.
if we thought that would help these people,
You could change the law.
we have to change the law.
We could change the official map.
But let's get
But
this
anyway, let's focus
resolution
on
ready
this.
for
So focus on
tonight.
this.
So,
So, okay, so
let's start
So
to
do you
figure
want
out
to
this
make a motion to first
resolution.
authorize Dave, Or do you-
I make a
do you wanna
motion
make-
to authorize Dave Clauser's office to spend up to $2,500.
he said 2,000, originally said 1,500, he said 2,000, so stop at 2,000.
2,000
I thought he said $800 and you put all for it. That's why.
$500.
He said 2,000, so.
$2,000 to profile Springtown Road to the town line with Tilson and portions of Doug Road. Am I
And
missing anything?
Cragswood.
And Cragswood.
Just a little bit. And I would like to add a little proviso to that. And if Mr. Clauser could provide the homeowners with an opportunity based upon a fee schedule for their own properties to be shot as an option, I'd like to add that to the resolution.
Well, that gets into the whole area of whether town employees can go on private property.
This would be a totally
Surveyors
separate.
can. I'm a licensed surveyor.
Oh, okay.
So then
So,
we're
but that
gonna-
would be a separate fee schedule.
Yeah, he said
But
it.
I'd like that to be, that's part of the town project, so we need to do that all at once. The property owners need.
Well, we need to let them know that this is happening, and if they need to, they want this, that they need to contact you, so this needs to get done.
Well, if 50 homeowners take us up on this, $2,000 is not gonna
Oh,
come.
no,
they'll
no,
pay for
you
it
did it at a
separately.
fee. For
Oh,
them to do
that's-
the private
okay.
property is for a fee. So
Okay.
while Dave is out there doing this, for a fee that, to be determined, they would pay Dave for the part to come onto the private
For the-
property. That was
Yeah, I
Dave,
think
that was.
if
So
you're gonna
how-
be out there, you might as well just.
So, but the only thing I would also, is if the friendly amendment is adding in a timeline, that it has to be done by a certain date, because it has to be done by a certain date. But,
This is after the 4th.
huh?
Yeah,
After the
Dave's
4th
not
of
gonna
July.
get this done before the application.
It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
done
No,
before?
it doesn't need to be
Okay.
done. If you're gonna
Okay.
authorize me to apply for
Okay.
grants, anybody who wants a grant,
Okay, fine.
that doesn't need to be
Okay, and
done.
then because we're gonna have that work done at the point when it gets to go to the next steps, the homeowners will know what they're up against.
Right.
Okay, great.
So, do you have that with all
You wanna
the
read it back?
amendments?
I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so, we have a motion and a second, any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion's so carried.
Aye.
Then we want to,
And just so everyone knows too, though, but, and we'll, okay, is that the letter of intent is, for any homeowner interested, just, when you make the letter of intent, it doesn't hold you or us
Right,
to anything.
right.
It's one page. It's 5 questions. And you can literally fill it out standing over Stacy's desk as much as you might want that she would help you. It's 5 questions.
yeah,
No, it's
One of the
not.
questions is, what's your name? Another question is, what's your address? There's only 3 others.
The third question is, what's your name?
Basically, yes.
okay.
So,
So who would like, somebody like to move?
I'd like to move for the town to adopt a resolution to permit the building inspector for the town of New Paltz to fill out all the necessary documentation for purposes of applying for grant money for the purpose of allowing a buyout and for the purpose of allowing, with respect to another resident, mitigation work. I understand there's 2 applicants, So for those two, I'm making that proposal.
But you're making the motion.
Friendly
for-
amendment.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reality is you're
That
not gonna have.
we make a resolution that doesn't just include the two
I was just gonna,
that she has on the table right now, in case it expands by
That's-
June
that's fine.
30th.
right.
That's
So
all.
she says she's making, you're doing it for acquisition or
That she can-
litigation for
Exactly.
anybody who qualifies or
There
would
you
like
go.
to, would like to.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Joe, you have anything you want to say, or?
I just want, I think you can vote on that resolution. I think the board may want to consider one that's somewhat broader, just to meet what I'm reading here. For instance, that the town participate as a sub-applicant, and that seems to be the language,
Why don't you make a?
for property acquisitions, et cetera. So if you want to do the motion for Stacy, that's fine, but then you might want to do it.
Well, why don't you just amend the motion to be the way it should be, to make it perfect?
All right, because it seems like as a sub-applicant under this plan, you're basically authorizing whoever needs to do what to do it, because
Okay,
you
so
make
we're
the
authorizing
application
you,
on
we're
behalf,
authorizing Dave, we're authorizing whoever we need to through,
to assist with it, because you're
Okay.
you're the applicant under the
Okay.
grant, the homeowner isn't.
Right, because we get the,
Right.
we'll get, if the house is $100,000, the town's gonna get the $100,000. And at closing, the town's gonna give the $100,000 to the applicant's gonna give us the property.
Right. The
That's
town
why-
is the applicant.
uh-huh. Okay, so how do you want to amend the resolution?
That the town of New Paltz participate as a sub-applicant, and that's the language of the
Okay.
statute, for property acquisitions under the hazard mitigation grant program under the National Flood Insurance Program.
The only thing.
Don't
is-
forget the mitigation.
Yeah, you
Right,
left
you
out
left out
mitigation.
You
mitigation.
did, you did
So
acquisitions, but you didn't do
acquisition and/or
mitigations.
mitigation, acquisition or mitigation.
Mitigation,
Acquisition
There's
and
acquisition
mitigation.
and mitigation.
And/or mitigation,
acquisition and mitigation.
Right.
and/or mitigation.
I don't think you can actually do and/or.
No,
I
but
think
the-
you
Well,
have
it's
to
the
do-
hazard
They have to make a
acquisition
decision.
and mitigation
Well, they might
grant
want to do
program, it's
mitigation
the
and
whole
decide to do
program.
acquisition after they go through the process.
That's true.
Actually, because elevation is one of the grants too, but elevation would do mitigation. Right?
Yes.
So they use the phrase elevation, they use the phrase when there's elevation and mitigation separately.
No, mitigation
No, that
means-
is mitigation.
Acquisition and mitigation are used separately, I think.
Yes.
So they have elevation.
Elevation is a form of
and-
mitigation.
And then they have planning in here too.
Right.
So they use four terms.
Yeah, but
So-
we're not gonna, for plan, we've already done that,
Right.
so that, the town isn't gonna redo that.
Okay, so is everybody happy with the motion as amended?
Yes.
Okay, so we have, Kevin, you made the motion, Kitty, you seconded it, right? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so
Aye.
carried. Okay, and then the third thing I think in this is, can I ask you, Kevin, to draft a letter to the residents of Springtown Road explaining what we're about to undertake and, how they should contact Stacy if they're interested in the time frame of which when they have to do this? Would you be
And
willing?
I'll talk to Dave
About-
about maybe a fee structure for that, and set
Right.
it all out.
Okay, is that okay with everybody?
That's perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, so we did the resolution, we
Next.
authorized Dave, and Kevin's gonna work with Dave Plaza to make sure all the residents know that this opportunity is available. Okay, great, okay, next.
Stacy, is one of the properties, though, is it a property across from currently the town land on Springtown? There's a house that we've had a lot of complaints about.
Crossing town land?
Yeah, from the town park. There's a,
No, that house is
The Poison
gone.
Ivy Park?
where there was, but is that land?
The house is gone, the land's been leveled.
Right, no, but they have any interest in us taking over that land as a park? Is that?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Could we approach them and ask them if they have any interest in trying to apply for these funds?
There's nothing
It's
to
just
apply or
agendas.
mitigate.
There's nothing to,
Just agendas.
And actually, the height of that land, well,
maybe I would require that.
there's nothing to acquire or mitigate on that property anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the house was in ruin prior to,
Oh, that house.
the house was in ruin without, okay,
Although the flood didn't
Irene.
help, that it was destroyed. It was destroyed before Irene?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
because this is specific to Irene. Okay.
Okay,
next.
so, next.
Part-time municipal code officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Next thing.
Yep. Go ahead.
So I have in my budget this year, monies for a part-time code enforcement, zoning enforcement officer, municipal code officer, and I would like to hire one. It's plain and simple. You all have a memo. I don't know if or what any of this has to go into executive session for, so, you know.
I don't know if we do either. I think the only question is the hourly pay. Just not sure. It's
Well,
difficult to
I
start
did-
people at that.
I did a salary study, okay, of Ulster County. And I will gladly pass it around to every one of the board members. That hourly rate is still lower
Right,
than the average rate.
for this position.
For a
This
part-time
position-
position or a full-time position?
For, actually, whatever's out there.
It's like we're the only.
I called them up, I said, what do you have in your office? I asked for salaries. This is what I was given. Didn't get any response from Plattekill.
Does this free you up to do other things that you need?
Yeah.
We need a zoning officer.
And so can you just tell me what the zoning officer will be up to
The zoning officer can do everything that's in this book,
to ensure
other
compliance
than,
with the book?
yes, ensure compliance with, other than building, construction, inspections.
So you would have
And
the
fire
opportunity to go out and do inspections, and you don't have that opportunity yet.
Well, I mean, I
Not
do
too
everything
much, yeah.
right now. And there's a lot of things that don't get done, and a lot of things that get done late, okay, because I can only do what I can do when I can do them. Fire inspections are all up and due this year. You know, if it's not public safety, I haven't really been dealing with it. I get complaints on signs and whatnot. You know, signs are not high on my priority list. There's signs all over the place. You know, this person would be able to go out and take down signs. They can chase down the people that don't mow their lawns and throw garbage all over their yard. And, you know, someone comes in and needs to speak with them for a half hour about what they can do on their property, this person can do that. Okay, they can review, you know, ZBA applications. They can review, you know, building permit applications as far as zoning goes, so they comply with the zoning, you know, are they gonna need a variance before it even gets to my desk?
Okay.
You know, it's just, it's an extra hand, which I need.
So this person is already familiar with the zoning code?
Yes, this person is already familiar with the zoning code. She's the current Secretary of Planning and Zoning. She's been in our office for 6 months. She's familiar with the procedures. She's familiar with a lot of the code. Wouldn't have to do a whole lot of training.
And actually, when I first got in, Michael Calamano, when they were replacing the ZBA and Planning Board Secretary, because Laura Pettit could no longer do the great job she used to do, Mike Calamano actually had come over to me to talk about doing exactly what Stacy's recommending right now. From the perspective, he thought it would be a great way to take Stacy's need for the zoning officer and this new building, the new secretary, and put it together in one job. I got over to Stacy at the time with the recommendation. She wanted to sort of hold off a little bit until.
I just didn't have time to deal with it right then.
So when I went to her, she was like, and I was like, look, I'm brand new, I don't care, Michael Calamano just came and asked me to ask you, fine with me. But now when Stacy came in and asked me, I said, wasn't this what I came and asked you in January? And she said, yes, now I need it. So at the end of the day, it's actually, the person's really terrific. She's really wonderful. I've watched her, I've seen her.
So was our building inspector. We
Yeah.
have to give her some.
Yeah.
Right.
I have no, we will get you your assistant. I am a little concerned about the starting hourly rate. I don't know if we want to discuss it out here or not, but it's certainly higher than we've started anybody else at, and I think.
It's a different position, Katie. It's not a clerk's position.
I understand. Is this the same rate that this person is getting paid in the
No.
other position?
No, they'll continue to get what, It'll be book kept at the hours they do ZBA and planning board. They will get book kept at that hourly rate, and then the time that they act as the code enforcer, they'll get book kept at that hourly rate.
Okay. And
So-
I thought we did not pay benefits until 25 hours per
No,
week.
unfortunately,
20 hours. So she's already eligible for benefits. So we wouldn't be bringing someone else in
and giving two
and
people.
having to
I
come up with benefits.
Really, you got really
Well,
poor
that's
policies
pretty-
here.
well,
You got the worst policies in the world.
So-
I am really sure that it was 25
It's
hours.
20.
So unless it
You're
got
talking to the,
changed.
you're talking to
No.
the union shop steward, so.
It's 20. It
I would-
hasn't been changed. That's the problem. It's never been changed.
And so when we do the personnel policy, we can discuss changing it, but for the moment it's in there. She's actually not getting the benefits, she's owed the benefits, so she'll get them regardless because we owe it to her. So now we end up getting a full-time employee getting these benefits, and instead of Stacy bringing in somebody and giving two people insurance, this is actually a very good opportunity for us to get a good person.
Oh, well, wait a minute. No, if maybe your personnel policy does say 25 hours, and maybe your union
No,
contract says
no,
20.
personnel
I think-
policy.
Oh.
Because
I'm-
this position is not in the union. Okay,
Right.
the
Right.
municipal code
Right, I
officer
remember.
position that's in the union is for full-time, not part-time. So this position is not eligible to be in our union unless we request it.
So,
And
I
you
mean, do we
agree.
have a copy of the personnel policy? Because I specifically remember the employee that precipitated this discussion and was not eligible because it was 25 hours. So, and this person was not eligible
Do you
to
want
be
to take
in
a
a
break
union.
while we get the personnel
So,
policy?
I
do
actually,
we wanna-
well, quite frankly, I
we
think
could
this
take-
person needs to be hired, and I think she's the right person, and I have no problem.
Well, regardless, if she's eligible, she's eligible. If she's not, she's not.
well, she'll be eligible at its full-time, but
This
I'm
is,
not,
this is two part-time positions. It's not a full-time position.
Right.
That's already been explained. That
Oh, okay,
it's
so
from-
that's what's troubling you, Kitty,
So
because
she ends
if
up
it's
get-
20 hours,
Right.
but you believe that the
I
personnel
don't believe
policy
either
says
position
20.
is
I
eligible.
see.
Human Resources has
understand.
already explained that this would be two part-time positions, and two part-time positions do not make a full-time position.
I know.
Right.
So,
So I
well,
understand Kitty's
So I'm
concern.
thinking maybe we need to create a full-time position that would be eligible for benefits, because I don't think this cobbling together two part-time people is.
Nobody was saying that. Nobody was saying that. What was being said was that at 20 hours, which she does, she was already entitled. I know you differ, but so in other words, from the perspective of bringing her in to do this other work is not going to change the dynamic of health insurance. If at the end of the day it was not it wasn't in the policy for 20 hours to get health insurance, she has two 20-hour part-time jobs, she doesn't get it.
Right,
But
so
if
we
you
need
wanna
to
create
create a
a full-time-
position. I think that's the answer. Is to create one full-time position of assistant code officer, planning, building department.
It sounds more like zoning administrator to me, but,
Yeah.
No, no.
no?
Well, we
Well-
do if you can combine it with planning and
You
zoning.
would, because you would, and again, this individual, I interact with her just between the ZBA and the planning board, and she absolutely stepped in seamlessly to the position. So I have no concerns at all about this individual, but I'm befuddled along with Kitty, because my memory also serves me very distinctly that it was 25 hours, but I will gladly stand corrected on it. It was 25 hours for benefits, because we had this discussion a few years ago. And I remember those
Right,
clearly.
so
And we could have been mistaken, absolutely, but I was positive it was 25.
If it never got,
So,
oh,
I think we should keep it as two part-time positions. If she's eligible for insurance, she's eligible for insurance. If she's not, she's not.
Now, the other
We can always-
advantage, Kitty, to two part-time is that we are paying different rates for each. Now, I would have to go back and kind of rebuild to see what we paid out at the one part-time and what the total dollars are. The full-time position potentially could actually be less than the total. Absolutely right, because the 16 could be higher, it could be low. So I don't really honestly know.
But once you start with a full-time position, then you start with the possibility of having to go to civil service, go through testing, do all that. And then we're creating more of a problem for the planning board, the zoning board, and Stacy if we do that route. So I would think that the best thing for the moment is to appoint her to this part-time position. If she is entitled to the insurance of 20 hours, she's entitled to it regardless of what we do tonight. If she's not, she doesn't get it. And if we think down the road, creating a position, you know, let's do that in a way that makes sense, where we can study, understand, and look at what's out there, and then create a position and do that later on instead of maybe through the budget process versus tonight.
Yeah,
Is
I mean, because
that
the
okay with
position's
everybody?
absolutely, I mean, I agree, the position's absolutely needed. I mean, absolutely.
I
So is
I
it-
don't think anybody disagrees with
Yeah,
that.
so Stacy, we definitely need, we know you need the help.
So I propose on behalf of the town board that the town board authorize the hiring of the person designated in your memo dated 6/13/2012 to be a part-time employee at the hourly rate set forth in your memo, that should be hired immediately.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion so carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next, Stace, you had,
Next, Stop and
Stop and Shop
Shop.
site.
Just a quick update, I received approval recently to get moving on getting the site plan for Stop and Shop completed, which we know is the utilities on Cary Hill Road, next to Dunkin' Donuts. I've been in contact with Dave, I've been in contact with Joe, and we're moving forward to do what is necessary to get that completed. We have monies in escrow, which we will draw upon, you know, to finish the work. So we'll periodically keep you updated, let you know where we're making, what we're doing with that.
Do we have to notify Stop and Shop that their money is being used
George has
for
been in
this?
contact with Stop and Shop,
It's right there.
There he is.
you know, so, yeah, we will be actually notifying them, you know, how we're proceeding. But he has been in touch with Stop and Shop, and they
Okay.
pretty much said, do what you need to do,
Okay.
so.
I'm going to contact their attorney. That's the attorney that worked with us when we developed the site plan application agreement and the escrow agreement. So I'm going to find out, I'm going to try and get a letter from them authorizing the resort to that money.
There is just sort of one question, which is how did they get approvals without this having been taken care of?
That was a planning board issue, I don't know.
I know.
Okay.
The site plan was approved with that pole in a different place, according to what Central Hudson wanted. And when we started to build the right turn lane, Central Hudson decided they needed a pole on the other side of the street on this other property, which seemed easy, but it wasn't. The owner was non-responsive throughout. They tried, I mean, they stopped the construction short of moving that pole because they couldn't get permission, an easement from the owner of the property. It was quite a mess. It was a surprise. Seemed like it was not a problem, but it turned out to be quite a problem. They couldn't complete the right turn lane because of that.
And yet they got
The
final
site plan
approvals.
approval was based on the pole not needing to be there. That was granted, we were under construction. It was 6 months after the site plan approval was done when Central Hudson decided that they needed to pole on the
I
other
see.
property.
Okay.
Is that right-hand turn lane, is it supposed to be in place from the time you leave Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, when you make the right? Is it cut right in there? Because it's only about 15 feet long.
Right, you see it stops right at that pole, and it's the pole that has to be moved. From there, it tapers back to that drive. It
That's why
doesn't
the
go.
traffic there is a little problematic.
Yeah, it's weird.
What would the size of the condemned land be? What would it be?
It would be very minor. I'm not sure. I know I have files of the original design on that from Stop and Shop's engineer. It was a very minor piece. We're looking at condemnation at this point.
If that's what we can do.
If it turns out that there's been a fair amount of requests made of the owner, and there's been no response, then the thought here may be, make sure that we get a correct search, a title search on it, verify who the owner is. And you may just want to proceed to do an eminent domain taking of appraising the easement, hold the public hearings, get things doing and take it.
Okay.
But And as a result of that, we may very well hear from the property owner who may very well wish to cooperate with us.
Okay.
So,
That'll get his attention.
well, yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, so moving on.
No, actually, while we're still on that letter,
Okay.
the town board might want to take action on it. She opens it up with dealing with Lent subdivision on that and New Paltz Views. That memo, I know it's dated from April.
Oh, well, yeah,
So-
I don't
Yes,
have
yes,
that,
yes.
so I wasn't.
Yeah, I apologize. So, but what it is
Today,
is,
nothing's happening right now.
with New Paltz Views, yeah, and Stacy can update you, and I was actually out there with one of the homeowners, and Chris and I have actually been out there. Nothing has been happening out there at all. One of the deadlines is actually in, well, I don't know, a week, and there's supposed to be, top of my head, 54 trees or so completed in a week. So I don't believe that's possible. I'll ask an engineer.
It's possible, it's certainly not probable.
I was gonna, the probability is very small, so I was
Okay, but
wondering if.
wait, didn't we have a bond?
Well, what we did was we authorized the engineer and lawyer and whatever, we created a schedule, we adopted the schedule, and I suspect it
And,
was sent
well,
out
New
to-
Paltz Views accepted the schedule, and
Okay.
their response was this will be no problem. And they were
Okay.
absolutely right, it is no problem, because they're not doing anything. So it is no
Okay.
problem.
Well, actually,
So
I think
he-
we gave them until
So he has,
August 1st.
he has a week.
Well, he has
do
a
the
week, but what
trees.
I would like to, he has a week, but what I'm wondering is, I know we could wait till next week too, but it should be added to, I don't want to keep adding to next week's agenda, but we have Stacy here now. I would like, and I'll ask Joe's opinion too, I'd like to have us send a letter now, letting them know
Or a
that.
reminder.
Well, not even a reminder, that if they do not start work to meet the deadline on the trees, that we will be starting in the first week, because if we're gonna plant 50 trees, we need to start now
Right,
too.
you
And
can't
I don't
wait
want to
till
start sending letters in July, August, when if we send the first letter now saying we are going to do step one, if you don't.
If I remember correctly, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, we originally, because we have money in escrow, we had originally said we would take everything on by ourselves, and we would do it all. but
Well, no,
then-
we have a schedule, yeah.
No, I know, but originally we were saying, we'll just do it.
Right.
But then instead, I think we changed it and created the schedule, and they
Yeah.
agreed, and they were, whatever.
agreed to the schedule,
So I
yeah.
mean, could we not sort of say?
Well, no, I want to do step one of the schedule.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that, but they're not doing it. So
Right.
I'm going back to, if they don't comply with step one, can't we go back to what we wanted to do by taking action into our own hands and the
I mean,
money's in
I'd
the
like
bag?
to, I'd like to lead, I mean, and I get Joe, let's get Joe's opinion. I would like
Yeah.
to stick to the agreement that we have, which is, okay, apparently you couldn't do step one, apparently maybe trees were difficult for you. We will take care of the curbing, the edging, the trees, which was the step one.
Uh-huh. That's what I
Step two
meant.
is due, I believe the end of July or August 1st, I believe, was the second deadline for some of it. It's not good to we'll just keep moving forward. So we have actually better than a bond. We have, you were correct, we have cash.
Yeah, but I'm saying that.
It would help if I had something that we can put into that notice that will tell them how much of the security money we would intend to take for the work to be done in stage one.
At least it has-
Because it's a different cost to the municipality than it is to them.
And it
We've
has to
got
work together.
costs, we've
Right,
got
has to
bidding,
work
we've
together.
got
That's why I think we need to
competitive bidding,
start sooner
we've got
than later.
these fees. You know, it's like the cost of the work plus about another 20% again, right? I mean, as a bit of Kentucky windage, our costs are different than theirs. So
Right, so it's cheaper for him to do it.
it's actually cheaper for them to do it than for us. But I need the dollar amount to tell them how much we're gonna grab from the cash security.
So, well,
Can you get me that? Or, you know, reasonable?
so why don't we do, can we have a motion to authorize Dave and Joe to put together a letter to go to the.
New Paltz Views.
To New Paltz Views, saying that you have till this such a, next week, whatever the date is, to do X amount of work, and if not, the town will commence to do the work on their own at X, at, you know, an estimated expense of X amount of money.
Which will reduce your
Escrow.
escrow account
cash,
by,
yeah.
your cash escrow account by
Joe,
X dollars.
You're gonna send him kind of a default notice letter, a pending default notice, and tell him that he does not have a right to cure after the deadline passes? Because the last thing we wanna do is go ahead and
Start the process.
do the work ourselves, and then all of a sudden he wants to do it.
Once we start the bid process and we start doing the work,
You have to let him know that he can't cure.
Is that legal?
Sure.
We just have to tell
And
them.
that's why I have that's why it's great to have two lawyers here, yeah.
You know, you want to be certain that you don't want them to cure. There's nothing in this for the town to do the work.
Right.
What's in it is that it gets done.
I mean, we're at a point where we,
I understand, yeah.
And I think that's what you,
but if.
Yeah, I just want it done. The residents that live out there just want it
just because
done.
we do part one doesn't mean we have to do the next couple of parts.
That's true.
And I'm hoping they realize that
We're
once
serious.
that.
Well, if we don't
that we pay
actually
for
send them a
part one.
letter basically saying exactly what Kevin's saying, in essence, they're gonna, at what point do they start to take, take us seriously? I mean, you've been dealing with this for a very long time.
For years.
So now we're showing that we're pretty serious. We're putting our money behind it, their money behind it.
When the-
putting their
when the-
money
when
where
the
our
money-
mouth is.
When the money disappears,
really great.
we'll know if they care.
We gave them an opportunity to, and we came up with a schedule.
I agree.
It was fair, so.
Yep.
So can that be included, what Kevin was, that they cannot then go and,
Once the water
Sure.
comes
that the cure is that we will complete it and it's gonna cost them
X month, 30% more than.
substantially. Because it's really not fair to, and Stacy will agree, it's not fair to go one more winter season with
No,
those
no.
residents
We
paying
made-
taxes and not,
We made a
not
plan,
plowing the
we
roads.
we came up with a plan, and we're sticking to it.
Yep, okay.
Okay?
So can we authorize, so.
I made a
yeah,
motion,
ma-
somebody,
Second?
well, actually, I was asking somebody to make the motion.
Okay, so moved as Susan, so Ellen.
Okay, would somebody like to second it?
Second.
Is there any discussion? You had something you wanted to say, or no? You came down the
Only
steps.
be careful when you plant, because there is planting seasons for trees that you don't
Yeah.
want to plant in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Have to hire somebody to water on.
You just want to plant it.
Don't.
July is not planning.
Well, it comes out of New Paltz Views.
It's their money.
It's their
Okay,
money.
So I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion so carried. Thank you, Jeff, for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we did Stop and Shop, okay, great. And employee designated smoking area, Town Hall. You all got the letter from a resident next door, and it is true that almost all the town employees comply with the smoke-free zone, but they go over to New Paltz Views as opposed to walking, sitting on the
Village
street or
Arms.
whatever. Village Arms, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I know it's on your mind.
Right, so, right. So, talking with Stacy and some of the employees and stuff, and what we thought would be that we should designate a smoke-free, not smoke-free, a smoke-er zone.
A
And-
designated employee smoke area.
Right, and what we thought would be the best, considering all the spaces around and all the tables and stuff, would be the one closest to the walk to the Go to Memorial Pool, which keeps people, the table over there, so it's not right on the street. Not, the table over here is too close to there, the table there is too close to the public. The table over there is the one that's the furthest away from any public and whatever, and so that was sort of the solution we came up with, because we have to come up with something, because unfortunately, we have a lot of smokers in this town building right now, and as long as smoking is legal, the employees have the right to smoke, and so sending them out onto the street or next door is not quite fair, so.
My
know,
comment
we
on it is that absolutely not. I mean, we have agreed to be a smoke-free community. We were publicized as a smoke-free community in websites. We are still published as being for making a resolution for being smoke-free. We got free signage because of that sent to us
But
for being
That's
smoke.
just park plan, our parks, was it all town?
All
property?
town properties, all parks, everything is smoke-free. I know it's tough because I'm sitting here with at least two board members that smoke, and I know it is a touchy subject, but I gotta be honest with you, I do not support whatsoever having any smoking. Every hospital in Ulster County is a smoke-free campus, and they need to completely leave the campus to go smoke. And I think it's very sad that if we can't ask our employees to please respect our neighbors here and not go smoke in their parking lot, that's a very sad testament to our employees. I mean, then they need to go somewhere else and smoke. And maybe it's sitting in their cars.
Okay.
Well, they have to be off our
I just
property.
want to, because I completely agree, but do you happen to know what our policy is? Is it no smoking on any municipal
All I know is that
property?
last August, somebody, some residents that were at the pool were upset because people would leave the pool area, go outside and smoke. This is what I understood.
Mm-hmm.
So they came to the town board meeting and they wanted the town board to, not allow smoking at Moriel Pool, okay? Because people pass in and out through that parking lot, and, that's how it came up. And the board at that juncture said, well, why don't we just make all town properties smoke-free.
Did we make
And
town properties
that's
or
what you-
town parks?
According to Tony, it was all town property.
It was all town properties, because we got signage also for all town-owned properties are smoke-free. So
Well,
that would actually include
Let's
the
just
rail
go
trail.
back to our minutes and see exactly what we said. If it's all town property, then it's all town property.
Right.
If I think I
I mean,
remember
the
being-
signs were put up, there's
Yeah,
signs,
Kitty,
there's
I'm sure it's all
signs
town property.
throughout
Reason
the
being
campus
is-
here.
Okay.
You know, I
It
don't
says
know
no
if they're,
smoking.
I don't know where else
Okay.
they've been put up because, you know.
Because
I
we had to
don't
send a
really look.
copy of the resolution to get, we didn't pay for the sign. We sent the copy of the resolution to, I'm gonna say, Tobacco-Free New York State paid for the signage. And when we sent that to them, then they just asked us how many signs. And I forget, we asked for whatever, 20 signs,
The
whatever.
letter was just taped to the back door.
But the truth is, that, I mean, all the employees, even the DMV guy, they all go
Yeah.
over to,
That's why.
I know, they all
Right.
go right over to there.
I mean, I would
And,
prefer that we just request our employees to respect other individuals and leave the area to go smoke, because now you're just mitigating.
That's what we're trying, that's what we're
But
trying
now
to
you're
do.
just mitigating. Now you're gonna take it and you're going to ask people to breathe in secondhand smoke walking on the sidewalk from Stewart's to Town Hall, or walking to Moore Yellow Pool.
But the problem is that they're going onto residential property and smoking
Agreed,
there.
and you know what, that's disgusting, and hey, I'm one of the smokers, okay? However, I do have a question, and when you deemed all town properties non-smoking campuses, did you distribute a notification
Absolutely, it was in every paycheck.
to every, okay?
Absolutely.
And did you make them sign it and return it back to personnel?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So you don't need to, just, you don't need to have it
Well,
returned.
hold on a second, because I will tell you the difference, okay? I work at a smoke-free campus, and I am not allowed to smoke on the property. And I signed one of those, and it is on file, and I don't smoke anywhere on the property.
But we have two attorneys here, so ignorance of the law does not give you a right to
But-
break.
It's
but
not,
wait,
it-
that's
I'm
not
not
the problem.
saying
Gene, that's not the
they're
problem.
ignorant because they didn't turn it back in. I'm saying it's not a term of their employment.
I'm not stating it is, I never stated this is a term of employment, I'm simply stating that I think,
Nobody.
That, see,
yeah,
that, it makes a
no
difference
one's
to
saying
me.
it's a term of employment at all, it's not even been said, I don't know where you're getting that from, what I'm simply saying is we
But
shouldn't
the
be
problem,
parking.
the problem right now, just, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's just because right now the problem is not them smoking on town property.
Right, right.
The problem is them leaving town property
Right.
to smoke and imposing on other people's property. That's the problem. Okay, that's why we put it on the agenda to talk about how to accommodate the fact that the employees are not smoking on town property. They're going to private property to smoke. And so how do we sort of mitigate this? I mean, we certainly can tell every employee, please do not go, next door, but we can't.
And the idea is there is a location on town property that really wouldn't offend anybody.
Right, it's
Well,
not near the entrance doors.
Right,
It's
and
not.
that
It
was
takes-
the whole point, is that, is there a place on campus that smokers can use that is not going to offend anybody? And that was the point.
And it does
That you can enforce, though. You can enforce that, because once you designate a
Right.
space, you can enforce them that that's where they have to go. I don't know if we can necessarily enforce that they can't go next door, other than to say, please stop it, because you're creating problems.
Well, then, and then as being a healthcare provider, then I will also include that I do find it offensive too, because one of the leading causes of various cancers and health ailments are from smoking. And so when you smoke, you are directly affecting us, all of us sitting here too. It does raise your insurance rates because you're gonna have higher absences from work because of smoking, and you're gonna have higher health costs because of smoking, and that is a fact, that people that smoke have higher health costs than non-smokers. So I am not gonna sit here, and you can say no, Dean, but it's fact. It's an absolute
Really?
fact. Really?
Really?
You don't agree with that?
I so totally, as
Please.
my one person, I totally disagree.
As an
because-
individual, absolutely, you can
As
buck
an
the odds.
individual,
As an
I do
individual, you
disagree.
absolutely can absolutely buck the odds, but also as an individual, I can tell you that I know
Okay.
Individually, I am being affected by someone with mesothelioma because was a 10 year
So-
was a smoker. So absolutely, I can tell you that it does have its cost. And I
Okay.
can tell
Well, the
you,
point
so.
is, what we're,
Can we get a phone booth?
I'm not gonna disagree about whether
Make
smoking's
it
healthy or not.
As a town, I would be
Can make
very
it so
disappointed that we
public.
agree that we should have a smoking area. I think as a town supporting that also from a town that has that it takes $50,000 a year from a partnership that is supposed to, well, no, 50, for our grant, for the community partnership, which is drug and substance abuse. Tobacco is listed as a drug.
Okay.
So
So
now
I-
we also take money to try to stop people from using drugs, but yet we're gonna support smoking by having an area on our property.
Okay,
I
so
find that
you-
very disappointing.
Would you prefer that they stand on the sidewalk?
It's not town property, they can stand on the sidewalk.
Can you
Okay.
take one of those sheds you have at your, one of those bus stops and put it out there on the front of town hall?
You can't smoke at the
Still
dumps
have
down
those
on.
bus sheds though?
What's that?
Still have the bus sheds?
I've got 3 of them.
Put one right down there.
Okay, how does anybody else feel about this?
I think
So
that's a good solution.
Let's make
The
them smoke on the
sidewalk
sidewalk
is
in front of
public
town hall.
property. Right.
Gene?
I mean, we have
All
a
right.
town policy. that-
No,
I
that's why it's on the
understand you have a
agenda. That's
town
why it's on the
policy.
agenda.
I just want to give you the scenario of the people from the public pulling into town hall. I think it's less offensive that they're over at the stone table under the trees than right on the sidewalk at the entrance to the driveway. I think out of the way and under the trees. That's what I'm,
You're
okay.
probably right aesthetically.
Now, okay, but
it
let me.
violates our policy.
Okay,
We'll
let
change
me
it.
add something, okay, and I do
Village
not
Park.
leave work to go out every 15 minutes, but I understand that some people do
Believe me.
do that. And so what you could ultimately end up with here in productivity by making them go to the sidewalk is a reduction in productivity.
Is the property next door smoke free? The
Well,
village
that's the
property?
Village Park, so they
Does the
smoke free.
village- If it doesn't have a policy, can we move the picnic table 10 feet
That-
on the village property?
That's village
That-
property.
No, it's Moriello
It's a
Park.
joint property, it's joint town and village.
The
Right,
piece
it's
between
jointly
is,
owned.
Yeah.
well, then you can't, yeah. No, that's village, I thought. Sure, that is still part of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a sidewalk that they can smoke on there too, from the bench to the sidewalk, from the picnic table to the sidewalk is, you're talking about the one right here or the cement one that's out in front here?
No,
not
the one,
town-owned
the
property
one
next door
here,
then.
the one
Okay.
that's over here.
That's
So
not-
from,
that's not town-owned.
no, from that to the
Village-owned,
sidewalk.
but it's joint-
That was
Would
on the,
be-
that was
No,
on
the
we were
other
talking
one.
about
Right, but the
other one.
sidewalk that's up on the hill here, which people would not see as much because they're above the roads, would be approximately a 35, maybe 40-foot walk.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we, if this is okay with everybody, because we have George Lithgow here and some other things to
Yeah.
do, and why don't we, for the time being, why don't we just try to tell the employees that they can't smoke? We really would like them to respect the neighbors and please not smoke there, and tell the DMV people the same thing, whatever. Tell them we want them to go out on the sidewalk, let's monitor it, let's see what it is, let's readdress this in a couple of weeks or a month or two, and just see where it goes. And not
Good
make
plan.
any decisions tonight, let's just attempt to see if we can remedy this without.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay, who's gonna monitor all the butts on the sidewalk that's gonna make it really
Again, hopefully,
untidy?
hopefully the employees have enough respect to not take them and throw them down the sidewalk. If they do, it's a very sad statement of our municipal employees. You're absolutely right. It's very sad.
Coming from a smoker.
Me? I'm not a smoker.
She's
Right,
talking.
but
Oh,
you,
yeah.
I'm sure, don't leave a mess behind you.
Yeah, I have no idea. Do you
Okay,
take
so
your
anyway-
cigarette butts and throw them out on the sidewalk and leave them there?
Okay. What?
Right,
Okay, let's go to the next issue, if
So
that's okay.
I just have
Yeah,
one more
sure.
quick issue that's not on the agenda that really needs to be addressed by this board, is the rear parking lot. We have very bad trip hazards out there, parking lot has to be repaired.
Are we talking about the one,
Yes.
but I thought we had authorized Chris, and I went out there with you and Bob, and we stood out there and we talked about it, and
You
came
know,
up with a plan.
Revise it from the original.
From $30,000, you came up with a 10.
Which I have a copy of that here.
32, I revised it, we never.
Oh, we never authorized it.
So you made it
Okay.
3,000 now, right? Okay, thanks, Chris.
So.
I was here that day, I remember.
Remember we were standing up there and
Yeah,
actually Joe
tell me.
came by and everything, and that's when we
Keep
came
it
up with the DPW.
cheap. Where did you bring it down to, Susan?
Well, I basically said that I didn't need a $30,000 brand new parking lot because hopefully we're gonna get out of this building. So Chris brought it down from $30,000 to $7,840. So,
I guess
That's-
there'll be
that-
no cement involved in that. I guess.
That's good enough for me.
No, there'll be no
Okay.
cement, just take, but, okay.
so do I have a motion to,
I'll make that
authorize-
motion.
Second.
And this comes out of the highway or does it come out of buildings and grounds?
You know what?
It comes
He's
out of
gonna
buildings and grounds.
charge
Okay.
buildings and grounds back, isn't he?
Uh-huh, okay. Okay, so who's good, so, who would like to move that we authorize $7,840.08 to come out of buildings and grounds for the purposes of repairing the town hall parking lot?
So moved.
Second?
Wait a
Any
minute,
discussion?
wait a minute,
Do they have enough money?
Wait a
for the
minute.
grounds?
He has money.
wait a minute.
It has to be done.
It has to be done.
What department do you want it to come out of?
What comes out of building and grounds?
Oh, yeah, good, okay, I'm on board.
Okay, great. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm hot and
Motion's okay.
sticky, I just,
I'm done.
we
Okay.
like,
So you here. Take this. Okay, great, it's now authorized. $30,000 down to $7,000, all just standing outside.
I thought I remembered that.
Right?
Smoking in the other room.
Yeah.
Oh, it was up
It's,
there. Okay,
prepared.
thank you, thanks
Jeff, do you want
everybody,
this
okay.
back?
Thank you,
And
Stacy.
these are the properties on Main Street.
Those are the ones, okay. Do you want, yeah, you know those.
I wrote them down.
Oh,
Thanks, Stacy,
thank you.
so much.
Thanks, Stacy, thank you.
Okay, so before, what
Stacy, do you want to look at any others next week? Give a memo to Susan if you do. You know what I mean? So you have another one that you think we should be looking at, give it to Susan.
I do.
Give it to Susan. Oh, okay. Talk to Susan.
You'll be there.
She'll talk to you. It's fine.
Too hot to play golf.
I'm gonna jump ahead to the town board support for Park Point DFC grant for the eventual town water system, so we can bring George down.
Okay.
We zipped through everything else pretty quickly, I think.
Should we have Joe?
Joe well, Joe
No, Joe-
Yeah,
has to-
Joe said,
No, Joe can't
Joe
be
should-
part of this conversation, but do we need, we don't need Joe for anything else, right?
Actually, are we done
Do we,
with
Joe,
Joe?
let me just ask Joe before you leave, do we need Joe for anything relative to the foreclosure acquisition? Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thank you,
You look
everybody.
very, very handsome today.
I apologize, no tie, no
This is the
jacket.
first time we've
Mr.
ever seen
Lithgow's
his
making
neck.
me look
I think
bad.
you look great tonight.
Mr. Lithgow's making me look
So
bad.
what about Margaret's,
Joe, I
no,
happen to,
extreme heat
Joe,
emergencies,
I
he's
happen to
allowed
think
not
you
to
look
wear a
very good
tie.
tonight.
what about
be very
Margaret
serious.
Snellgrove?
Is that the ethics
Testamentary
of,
trust, is this
attorneys?
something
Extreme
that
heat emer- Yeah.
you need to tell us about?
We'll put it on the agenda for next week if we need to. I gave everybody a copy, George, of the letter you sent, of the,
Is that,
the minute of this.
this is,
no? You don't know, okay. I thought that came from
Dave
you.
probably knows that.
You're working on this?
Oh.
Okay.
So let's get to the task at hand, and we can talk about this stuff later.
This all began last Monday.
yeah.
Okay, everybody paying attention, Gene, everybody?
Okay.
The Regional Economic Development Council put out a call for priority projects for the 2012 funding round. If you're not familiar with it, the Regional Economic Development Council is part of the new Governor Cuomo's new methodology for distributing at least a portion of economic development funds throughout the state to regionally important projects. And they have a strategy, they have staff, there's a
We all
fairly-
got the announcement.
Okay, so you know basically what the program is. Park Point has submitted its GIS, or draft GIS. They are interested in applying for that, and they have requested that the town provide some form of letter of support.
Can you just step back when you said that they submitted their DGIS, and in it talks about developing a on-site water system and an on-site sewer system with the town, possibly working with them?
It would be actually an off-site
Okay.
water and sewer system.
But-
On an adjacent parcel, they'll put a sewer plant on a piece across the street. They propose to put wells. There's a water tank involved. So it can actually
Be the beginning.
complement the sort of infrastructure that the town has been thinking about for quite some time to help develop South Bud and that general area south of the college, which is proposed as a growth area in the draft comprehensive plan.
But a commercial growth. not just resident. Is there any
It's
commercial going to
actually,
be
it's
there?
called a university growth area.
Right.
It is a mixed use.
Right.
Proposes
So
residential.
is there mixed use in this project?
In this project, no, there is not a mixed use. But the overall area is what will be developed as mixed use. Not just, this is one element, it's in the RV. It's compatible with the uses provided under RV.
This is the 50, this 50 acres is
This
pretty
is the one
much
that
all there is.
was in
In
the
that
project.
university
There's
growth.
area to the south.
The
there
area
is
to the
across
south is
street.
already residential housing, right?
There's
Bellaterra.
I'm not sure how much, but there's.
This goes right to
Bellaterra's sort of like
Bellaterra.
One's on the east side of 32 also. On the other.
Oh, the Moriello, the farm
Right.
stand.
And it's not clear to me exactly where it fits, but the area from 299 going down South Putt is proposed as an employment center, or employment area in terms of the comprehensive plan. It's currently the LI zone, which is light industrial. There is water and sewer available for a portion of that. In the GIS that was done, I think in 95, there was discussion about developing that area, dividing water and sewer to allow more focused development. And there has been an allocation of water capacity from the village to the town districts to facilitate that planning. And this fits in, but it's certainly not something where at this point in time, the town can say, we support this project. So what I believe you can do is send a letter which points out what the town is trying to do, or what the town has done to promote economic development in this area. It is a priority in the proposed comprehensive plan. But I think if you look at the overall activity and the zoning and the current master plan, it could be considered a priority under that. And this basically says, this is what we want to do, have central water and sewer in this area. For example, the RV requires central water. And this will facilitate it, it's consistent. And once it goes through the environmental review and the land use review process with the planning board and all the other involved agencies, the project may be able to go forward, but certainly having water and sewer in this area is important to the town. So it's a general expression of.
So this proposed water and sewer would be expandable for the future kind of commercial uses that we're hoping to see down there?
Absolutely.
But can I just say that I really feel that it's irresponsible for me to vote on something when I don't have a map, I don't have a proposal, I don't have anything to say that I support this.
Well,
I don't even have a
remember
letter
what
from
you're
the
saying-
applicant.
Remember what you're saying that you support as a town board is you're supporting the extension of water and sewer consistent with the town's zoning, with the town's plans, not this project. And we specifically would
Okay.
acknowledge that we're not promoting Park Point, we're not recommending, it's just consistent with what the town is trying to do.
Okay, so the only thing that we would be resolving to support is increasing our water and sewer capacity.
And that this is consistent with that objective.
Because you're applying for grant funding, EFC
Well,
funding.
see, this is what's weird about this. When you apply for the designation as a priority project, it puts you on a list.
Yeah,
And you
I'm
go
familiar.
through that
Right.
process, and it eventually means you might get, but you have to compete. You might get money for it. So it gives them, it's necessary but not sufficient to get funding.
So the priority project would be increased water and sewer to stimulate economic growth?
Their priority, their application for designation would say, we're doing this project, we're providing water and sewer. It will serve our project. It will also provide additional capacity or the opportunity for water supplies to be developed that fit in with the town's objectives. So they're talking with one voice, we're talking with another. And we're saying there's a degree of harmony here about the water and sewer stuff. We're not expressing a view as to the merits of the project at this point.
And just so you know, as we've been talking about that project, and I've been very, very clear about my support for the project was really dependent, whatever support, it has to go through this process and stuff, but in the meetings that we've had, I've been really clear that getting town water or sewer as a jump off was really important to me if I was considered at the table to talk about this project at all, versus them just hooking in, whatever.
We haven't
But-
had any meetings
No, no.
about this project.
No, I know we haven't. I have.
Well, there was a PUD meeting, I think.
That I
We
was
had
in
the past.
PUDs, but then
Right,
that was withdrawn.
Right.
Right. But we've just talked about water and sewer in terms of, I've conveyed to them the goal of the town board and my belief, listening to you since I've been here, more so than anybody else, in us developing a town water and sewer system, and how important anything that anybody who comes to talk to me at all about anything is like water, sewer, water, sewer, water, sewer. So as Dave and I talk to other projects that come and ask about going on South Putt, it's like, how do we tie in everybody that comes to us? How do we sort of start getting everybody to think about tying into a water sewer system? And so every conversation is just relative to, not trying to go and
But
take the water from the village from that
The
little 50.
reason that we're so supportive of increased water and sewer is that we are hoping to increase our commercial and economic development
Absolutely.
potential.
Absolutely.
And but what we keep seeing is proposals for 100% residential. So I don't want to be misinterpreted. So I guess I'd just like to
that's
see
why
the
we're not-
resolution.
That's why we're not,
'cause-
what I will do is work with the applicant, come up with a letter that I feel you can,
Okay.
well, certainly that you can consider, that I feel you can sign on to without saying that we support Park Point, that we support residential housing, focused on the water and sewer issues and the town's existing.
Which you were very clear, and I think anything you've said to us relative to this was that it wasn't in any way, whatever we do, commenting one way or another whether we support the project, it's supporting the concept of water and sewer for the development plans of the community. But
Dave, would this be new water and sewer, or would it maybe have the potential of a sewer 6 expansion?
well, we've talked about that.
It depends on how big.
It's a long way.
Okay.
This is
Probably
a
talked
new,
about that. If you could try
new
to-
sewer plant with
We only
capacity for an
touched on it.
additional 200,000 gallons.
Okay.
But actually, Dave and I have tried to talk about, could we bring sewer 6 down into any of the sewer that's being planned for possibly South Putt, looking at almost any alternative that we can to try to solve the sewer 6 problem without having to build a new plant. So that is conversations, I don't remember how it was left, but I know me and you have talked about it.
Something we need to look at on cost. It's
Uh-huh.
gonna be, cost is gonna win on this.
Okay, so this will be ready for next week's meeting?
Because when's it?
And
due,
that
the
gives them
REDC?
enough time?
Okay, it's due
Yes,
the
they're-
REDC by,
Friday, 29th.
a lot of stuff due at the end of the month.
So it was a matter of George wanted to get in front of us to talk to us
Right.
about to see whether or not, he invests time to write the resolution for us, to bring back to us. So as long as everybody's somewhat supportive of him doing the work and bringing back the resolution,
Yep.
Yep.
because I don't know if we need actually a motion.
No.
Well, a letter of support.
No, I
As
was,
long as that's the sense of the board.
right, so
Okay.
the sense of the board is that he's not going to be doing the work for nothing. Okay. I hope that was all worth it for you.
Well, I hope it's worth it.
Have
People
it.
are interested.
I also meant for all the time you spent sitting here with us tonight.
Oh, it was entertaining. And I would just to clarify that point about the trees, one of the things you do want to consider, I think, when you decide whether to actually pursue it, is what the trees cost in the context of the overall bond resources. Because if you have to do more work on the road itself, if you have to follow through on everything, the trees may be, that's the tail, I think.
I think we did a back of a napkin view, and even with us paying full boat, we do have the cash. The
I
amount
know it's been a while since the bond.
the amount of cash they gave us was very substantial.
Pleasant surprise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Usually-
That is a good phrase. That is a pleasant surprise, and George did prepare something that, yeah, Dave did prepare something that showed that we shouldn't exhaust the funds.
So we'll see you guys in a few days.
Thanks so much,
Yeah,
thanks
thank
for
you.
coming. Okay, great, okay, if we could just sort of look through some of these things real quick.
Thank you.
We have a summer camp bus contract, where we approved all the contracts before. For some reason, nobody even knew that there was a bus contract that needed to be signed. And so this is for the use of school district buses to take the kids back and forth to Moriello Pool.
Well, actually, I think we're missing another contract. We never signed, unless I missed it, did we ever sign the YMCA contract?
We did that when we did the camp, when we did the basketball, baseball, and everybody, we did the summer at camp.
Oh, that was in there?
So we did all those then. The only one that wasn't in there was this.
Do you remember that? I remember signing the contract, we signed a contract with YMCA?
I thought we did.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
actually took them both out of my packet for tonight,
Okay,
because I
thank
thought
you.
we
I
had
just
done
wanted
the
to make sure,
second
yeah, I
one.
couldn't
No,
remember.
we definitely did,
Yeah, good.
we definitely did the YMCA. The only one that we didn't do was this because we had never been told we had to do it. And so that was brought to our
Yeah.
attention.
And we did one as well.
And so we needed to do it because they're going to start taking the kids, I think, tomorrow.
The term of the agreement will expire at the end of the month.
Change the dates. I think the dates might be.
Yeah,
I
the
think they gave
dates
us
are a
last
year
year.
old,
I think they
but-
gave us last year's contract, so
Yeah.
They did.
correct the dates. And
So, I
I
have a
think they start
question.
tomorrow taking them to, pretty soon. And I think it also is allowing, was this changed to allow for the seniors to also use the bus, or is this just for the summer camp? 'Cause, transporting children, so it's just really actually for the kids.
Yep.
Okay, so if the seniors want to use, Chuck had said something about all of a sudden using the school buses for seniors, but I'll ask him, that'll be a whole separate contract. What? You want to do the amendment? We can do that.
You could do that. All right, so we're going to do this again, right? Same terms?
Same
Well-
terms, unless you think there's something we should change.
So it's just typical that it's the town's responsibility to contact the drivers. The school gives us the list, which then I presume means that the drivers have all been cleared and fingerprinted?
Yeah, these are all drivers, they're all
bus
drivers that are all vetted by the
Okay,
district.
so who at the town
Well, actually, it should probably be
contacts the
Hawaii.
drivers, and then it says that they're employed at the town's sole option. I did not know we paid bus drivers for the camp program.
I think we're just reimbursing them for mileage, right?
Not if we employ them.
Where does it say employee?
It's under use of bus, and it's the sentence before C. It shall be the town's responsibility to contact such drivers and to employ them at the town's sole option.
Well, I'll
Make
speak to
available,
the-
it says employed by the district during the year of this agreement.
They make available the list employed by the district during the year. It's the town's responsibility to contact them and employ them.
Right. It's
Nah, that
the-
doesn't make sense. Does it?
But
Well,
it's a
I'm
town,
asking.
it's a town
No, I think
camp.
you
Well-
gotta read this sentence.
well, wait a
I think
minute,
it's saying
because-
We need additional ones, let's have the.
The designation
whole
of
paragraph.
bus and driver, it says the town reserves the exclusive right to employ the driver or drivers to be used for the program from the list supplied from the districts. And so I just wanted to ask what everybody knows about, do we
Is this just a
employ
bus agreement
drivers?
then? Is this just-
Or are we only renting the buses at $2.50 a head and the school takes care of everything else? Or $2.50 a mile? I don't understand.
It looks like this agreement's for buses at $2.50 an hour, and we have to employ $2.50 a mile rather, and we have to employ drivers. what it
That's
looks
my
like.
I
question,
don't know, this
Kevin.
is, you've had this contract, is, from what I understand, has been in place for a very long time.
No,
So
it was
It's not-
from last year, was when
What?
we first started.
But what do we pay?
It was,
Okay.
I don't remember,
so,
sorry.
I mean,
But
it's
it-
not
you know,
a town
it's
program, it's a
camp.
way-
I think we allocated $10,000 in the budget. Does
Yeah.
that sound right?
Yep, and we never exceeded it.
Right.
I remember,
I mean, technically, it's not a town program, it's the
The biggest, actually,
YMCA, but they're running the.
Right.
well, it's
So-
actually, we allocated $10,000, and I believe transportation comes to like 6 or 7,000, and then the rest is rent for the school. Does that ring a
Right.
bell?
Right.
It's about 5,000, it was a little over 10,000, and it's about 4,000 or 5,000 for the school
Our
students. Sounds about right,
contribution
and about, this
is
is the top
about
one.
10, and then the rest of it is covered by tuitions.
Mhm.
Right, So,
We're really not.
we've never,
operating
we
the
didn't go over budget last
Well,
year
no,
on
Hawaii is actually
transportation or
operating
rent.
it.
program.
Make corrections too, I mean, this is, I don't know who did this agreement last year. So you're
Yes,
saying
yeah.
prior to, I don't know
Last year was the first year we had this arrangement with the Y.
where you actually transport
And
kids
actually-
via the bus.
The school board must have already approved this at one of their meetings, because the school board has to sign it too. So it's gotta be,
Because camp starts pretty
excuse me.
soon, Matt.
Just asking.
I took it out of my packet because I
Well-
thought we had already done it, so I have to look at it again.
I'm not sure when camp starts. If it starts before our next meeting or,
It does.
How many kids
Starts before
are
next meeting.
involved?
When is the last day of school?
Few hundred.
A few hundred?
A lot.
A bunch.
Yeah, I'd just say, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, a
Today or
lot.
tomorrow?
They go from where to
So
where?
it probably starts Monday.
This is from the pickup I know now they're moving them twice, because we're bringing them, they moved the location of the school, right?
I think, where are they doing it this year? Duzine?
Duzine, because Lenape, they're doing construction at Lenape, so now the district's moved it to Duzine. Does that sound correct?
I think so. I
Yeah.
thought I had heard
I
they
have
had
to-
moved
I
it.
have to
Oh,
look-
yeah,
I'm just gonna look at my
I'm
email.
pretty sure you're right,
So
Jeff,
they're
that it was
taking
moved
the
to
kids
Duzine.
from
which is
Duzine to the
nice.
pool?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me see if I still have the email. I know I do.
I'm pretty sure you're right, Jeff. It is
Yeah.
Duzine.
So we're assuming all the liability.
This is all, but we did, the insurance is covered, though, by the town insurance. I remember we went through that last year,
Okay.
and Marshall and Sterling, we are completely covered.
How about the
And district
payroll-
is covered.
Payroll piece for the drivers?
I do not believe.
Okay, but do we put
Katie, does it
drivers
ring
on
a bell that
payroll?
we paid the drivers?
Yeah, I think that's probably
that-
our biggest expense. I
Was
mean,
it
other
paying the
than renting
drivers?
the building, to take the kids back and forth to the pool.
Okay, then. Where's the list of drivers
If the school district has it.
You're gonna
that
need
they need to provide to us
all the
for us to
payroll
hire?
information.
What?
You need
Well,
payroll.
us is the town recreation director. I mean, if you
The
want to
town
personally.
recreation director he has the authority to call for the bus. He does not have the authority to hire. Only we do.
The director of the program will have the authority and responsibility for the dates, times, and places that the school bus or buses will be used for field trips and events of the summer rec program, the duration of each trip. He or she shall request the use of a bus or buses to transport children for field trips. The town accepts the complete obligation for the supervision of the children, right? So, I mean, if you want the
Well-
school district to supply lists of all,
No, well,
To-
first of
to
all,
you
my
or to
question
Chuck?
is, based on what I read, either I'm misinterpreting the whole thing, so I'm looking at Kevin. Did I misinterpret
didn't.
the
You
whole
did not.
thing?
You're
That this is saying that these drivers that are cleared by the school, but now, for the purposes of driving the children on the school buses, that we will pay per mile, but these are now town employees for the summer,
Yep,
as we call them in to drive the kids.
yep.
So I was not aware of that. I don't have a list of drivers I'm hiring, and I don't have a rate of pay.
Well,
Jen, we did the rec director.
we could do anything.
So I didn't know if I misread it.
Serious.
We don't own a bus
I
and
think
and
if
the
the public
liability.
license.
I don't know, yeah.
Well,
Probably cheaper just to cab everybody over.
it's not that far from me to that's beside the point, but anyway.
Yeah.
But you're
uh,
right, we have to get the
Okay,
list
so-
of their names.
Okay, so wait a minute, we could do it next week,
No,
because
well-
it's supposed to start July 1st, 2012.
Are you sure? It's
Yes,
not-
because it said the first date was July 1st of 2011.
Well, then if
But-
that's it, then it's not a problem. I
Can
thought I was
ask
told,
something? Lynn said that the bus company.
just talk a little lower. Louder.
Lynn from the community center said that there's a company that won't hold the date of an event that they're doing until the contract is signed. So if you don't sign it until next week, she can't confirm that trip until this is signed. That's what
Oh,
she
but
said
that's,
to
but
me.
that, but that's for the seniors,
No.
for the
It
kids?
can't-
That's for the
This is for
kids.
kids
For the
only.
kids.
Oh, kids for,
Right.
Are you
right,
saying the
they go
school
on
district
field
won't
trips.
make the buses available unless we have this?
I can't remember the details. She just said that there's a trip that she's trying to book, but she can't book it until this is signed.
But it's a trip that she's trying to book, she hasn't booked it.
She-
So-
They won't let her book
Okay,
it for
which
sure
is-
until,
okay.
that's all. I
So
just.
it's not, I mean, unfortunately, they called us at the last minute, well, I mean, you were the one who, I think, told me that we needed to do this contract, because Lynn called you and said, so they just gave us the contract, we haven't had time to do due diligence. My only concern was I thought camp started next Monday, which meant if we don't do it till Thursday, the kids don't go to the pool for the whole week. But
Well, then they should
But the
have
previous-
made
I agree
sure
with you.
that the dates were changed in the contract if they,
Well, it's not the dates that's so much of a problem,
Well,
it's the
except
fact that
their
you're,
last year's
it's all,
dates, right?
it's not the date, because we could change the date. The problem is that you're saying we have to have the employees, we have to have
I'm
salaries, we have to
just
say a lot of other things.
asking if I read it right, Susan.
And Kevin said you did. So if Kevin's saying you read it right, and if that's what needs to be done, even if it wasn't done before, and that's what needs to be done now, we can hold off till next week so we do it right. It's just, what it means is if camp starts Monday, the kids won't go.
Okay, but what if this is not real? Kitty and Jeff, what if you don't employ drivers?
Does anybody in this room
Jeff, you wanna
have
call
children
me?
in our
Okay.
school
I'll just
district?
find it.
Does
Doesn't-
anybody
doesn't
know when
last
the last
year's
day of
go to
school
June
is?
30th?
Is
So
it
you're
this
good
Friday?
next week?
Oh, yes,
Tomorrow is the
Susan,
last day of
that's a
school.
very good point. Last year's contract goes until June 30th, 2012.
So you're good until
So we're
next
covered
week.
till next Thursday night.
Ah.
Rosanna's a genius. I just want
Oh,
to point
Jeff-
that
Yeah,
out.
no, the contract is still,
Oh, so the
Yeah,
contract.
the contract is still in effect.
as Laura said too, the contract is still in effect till the end of the month.
Okay, so then we have till next week, then we
Right.
can do
It would be
Thursday.
helpful if our rec director was here too.
Right, so everyone can satisfy my inquisitive nature and give me an answer.
Everyone's inquisitive nature.
But I'd
Well,
like
maybe
to,
can we have a
um,
rec director come next week maybe and explain to us?
It's,
the
I would
program?
rather not have them come and
No,
explain
I
it, rather
just-
work
Have
out
a
all the details.
long
and
I just need to
so
know.
So we can take care
Yeah.
of what we need to do
You know
without
what?
getting into a long.
So there
I
is, so you
won't
can
remember
leave
to
her rest
call in.
assured, Roseanne, that there is a contract then. Whoever is
Yeah,
sent
this,
you.
this was it, except it was just
Right.
whited out. I have last year's
Yeah,
contract.
so-
I noticed
So,
that.
so in other words, the kids are
Terrible.
covered till June 30th,
Yeah.
and then we can next Thursday take action, but we have to double check some of the concerns that were brought up.
Yeah.
And, of which was, Jean, would you like to, Jean, call Lynn tomorrow, or?
I'll try if I forget,
Okay.
but
Tell me-
I'm writing it down.
So will you write down everything that needs to be covered with, the information that needs to be had and remedies? Not remedies. I can't think of the word, doesn't matter. Okay, so let's move on. That was,
Please.
okay. Summer camp enhanced programs. What this is about, so I can explain, is, as you know, that I approve every voucher before, I approve every expense before it's expended. So when I got the vouchers the other day to go over with Patty, there was 3 vouchers for the instructor for $240 for one camp Zumba session. No, wait a second, that wasn't the one. It's,
Yeah,
okay,
it's
right up here.
Yoga, Zumba, and.
Yoga, yeah, one camp program for yoga, yoga dance at $960, one camp basketball clinic for $240, and one camp Zumba for $240. So I called Chuck to ask him what this was about, I didn't understand, and he said that last year, the board, well, he said last year, Tony, I can't say what the board approved or didn't approve, I can only tell you what he told me, was that last year, that he went to Tony, he was given a, but he was given a line in the budget for enhanced programming to do any kind of additional recreation program that he wants to do. And that last year they agreed to do some enhanced programming that the town pays for to supply to the camp to add some better and more additional programming to the camp. And so he had said to me, he said yes or no, and I said it's not that simple that it's yes or no. I said, I have to make sure that the board members, when they get the voucher to approve this, after you spend the money, that they're not gonna throw it back in my face and say, what is this?
Well, I mean, this, I mean, I
When
won't
did
speak
the
for.
voucher come through?
Right, but-
No,
Jason and I didn't see
I
it.
haven't approved it. No, I haven't approved it.
Oh.
So you haven't,
Oh, so it came in after
It-
last Saturday.
No. The money has not been spent. What's
I understand.
happening
Where's the
now?
voucher?
You don't, no. The voucher has not been processed because
Okay.
what has happened was, Patty gets the vouchers. She comes in and sits with me and says, so-and-so needs X amount of money, Chris Mark needs Y amount of money, Chris needs this, Chris needs this. So I will say, yes, that's fine, that's in the budget. Why do the police need this? Call them back, find out whatever. So if there's something that looks like, in other words, like if Chris needs blacktop, if Chris needs piping, if Bob Leghorn needs water meters, it's like, okay, fine, it's in the budget, we understand it, we get it, I approve it. Then there are certain expenses that'll be like, okay, do you guys want to buy the eggs for the Easter egg hunt? And I'll ask you guys, do you still want to, even though it's in the budget, under these economic times, do you want us to do this expenditure? So I will send things out periodically to you guys to ask, how do you feel about this? What do you want? So when I went through all of the expenses of what I was going to approve, that you would then, the money would get spent and you guys would do the audit. When I saw those 3 things for this enhanced programming, I said, what is this? Patty said, I don't know. We called Chuck. I said, Chuck, what is this? He said, last year with Tony, they put a line into the budget for enhanced programming, and they ended up spending money to provide programming to the summer rec program. And I decided that I was not going to approve that on my own, that I would come back to this board and ask you guys how you wanted to move forward with this. So therefore, you either want to do it or you don't, because I don't want you asking me about it after the fact.
Well, thank you for your due diligence,
Yeah.
and I won't speak for Kitty, but his revisionist history is interesting at best, because we didn't approve it. I remember, Kitty, if you remember, we actually had a discussion that we got a bill at one point for, I know the basketball clinic was held, but we did not know about it ahead of time. So
And
the questions.
And in fairness, Jeff,
Yes.
to him, when he said that, I went, Tony approved it and blah, blah, and I said, but that doesn't mean the board necessarily approved it, that the board necessarily knew about it. And I specifically said that to him, that just because you went to Tony, I can't be assured that Tony went back to the board. And all I can say is, Chuck, is it's better for me and you, for me to take this back to the board and see if the board knows about this enhanced programming, understands they approved it in the budget. Because it is in the budget, and we did approve it in the budget.
Well, that's,
okay?
I want to see it in the budget. I
Well,
want
the thing is, though,
Well,
is.
you didn't really approve a budget, though.
But
so-
in our discussion ended up being, I remember having this discussion with Chuck, is that the reason we're paying for the YMCA is that it is enhanced programming. And that I was shocked to find out that we were paying a couple $100s for a basketball. I think we paid a few $100s for lacrosse, but I could be mistaken. There was another sporting event, but I don't, and again, it comes down to where I know you are, and I think, I know you're there, Susan, and I'm there, which is, just because it's in the budget doesn't mean we need to spend it.
Well,
So, because for one thing that we do have, and it involves recreation,
This is
and
so
I'm not prepared,
absurd.
because
I can't.
Bill just got it to me today, but we need a new slide in the pool. And a slide is going to cost, it looks about $3,000 for a slide. So just because we have, and if you're looking at something that's enhanced, I actually spoke to Bill driving here, and as we were talking, he counted 20 kids in line at the 2 slides. So if you want to talk about spending $1,500 some way, I got a great way to get a lot more use out of it than having
Well,
kids do Zumba, basketball, and yoga.
Well, I actually pointed out to Chuck, when Chuck mentioned,
Right.
well, if we don't, if we don't do this, then we're not spending the money. And I actually did say, Chuck, if we don't spend the money, that means we have more money for next year, and that means we have to cut less programming next year. And so not spending the money is not necessarily
Not a bad thing. Not spending the money is a good
Here's
thing,
the
especially
thing.
when we're paying. So it seems to me that the discussion needs to be with,
It's just, I can't match
Well,
it up.
The problem is probably because what you have in here is not the worksheets that basically
Right.
have the breakouts. Now, unfortunately, last year's worksheets, for whatever, hardly have any breakouts like they used to in the past. They used to be major backup to the worksheets,
No.
to the budget. They don't really have them anymore.
No,
So- but-
because this is broken down into a subsidiary
Right, but it's
account,
not
and yet in
here.
your
But you
budget
wouldn't-
report, it's not.
But I'm saying you wouldn't necessarily see it more on the worksheets, wouldn't you?
Well, no,
If it
he's
was
got a
budgeted
line,
for,
but-
you would see it on the worksheets, but you're not even seeing it as an isolated account from personnel, equipment, or contractual.
So, but here's the thing, these kids are going to be,
well,
you
we're
know.
paying for YMCA to do
Well,
enhanced
I
programming by
don't-
definition. That's what YMCA
I
is
thought
being
that
paid for.
basketball
I
camp,
don't-
though, was kind of a regular thing that you guys did.
No, this is a clinic.
wrong?
This
No,
isn't
these are
basketball
just
camp.
clinics. These
This
aren't
isn't
camp.
basketball camp.
These are
This
just
is
clinics,
this
these
is-
were, someone shows up and does a few hours of basketball with them.
This is,
Okay, the only reason it says camp on this thing that's in front of us is because that's how it was typed in.
No, well, if you're saying this is basketball, the basketball camp,
Well,
which I
it-
remember we used to do basketball camps, but all I can say is, I'm given this, I called the rec director, I said, can you tell me what this is? He said, it's enhanced programming at the YMCA summer program.
But I thought we turned it over to the Y to
We
do
did.
the summer
I
program.
know,
Yeah, but we
and
didn't
that
turn
was
over,
this-
we didn't turn over basketball camp to them.
Well, there is no basketball camp.
Right, we stopped doing
Right.
those camps, I think, a while ago, right?
Yeah.
I think, you know.
Okay, so that was my, because I must
We did
remember the
basketball- we did the
15-year-old
15-year-olds ago, when
basketball camp.
when you were the bookkeeper for this town,
Right.
we used to provide basketball camp, we used to provide a whole bunch of camps. We did basketball camp, I think we might have done baseball stuff, we used to do a bunch of stuff. I don't know, at one point that went by the wayside, but we brought in the summer, we did bring in the YMCA to take over this summer rec program that the town used to spend $250,000 to implement, and we got $250,000 off the tax levy by bringing in the YMCA, and that's when I then put $25,000 in to just offset the cost of, you know, the fact that the rates were going up because it was 5 days a week and longer hours, and that was to provide scholarships for the kids who couldn't afford the increase, and then eventually the town board changed that, and then I guess went and put money into.
Right, we put in $10,000. This is a town program. This is not the Y.
Well, no.
This is not the Y. This
Well,
is a
what you see,
town
you know, is
recreation
that
program.
that line does have 16, it's got 16,670 in it, that line. The 7150, 485. So we do have plenty of money in there, so it's not we did budget for it.
I just don't know
I was told it was for the YMCA camp.
So
we
these
don't
are
have
for the YMCA.
They said they were not interested. when-
These were during the YMCA. Last year, this is the money we spent. Again, I wish we had Chuck here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
I
can't have
know.
discussion without Chuck here.
So we're paying for adding program
Right.
to the Y program.
Well, that's what I was told.
And that's what we did last year.
That's what I was
Yeah, we
told,
did.
that last
This
year.
is not the Y.
We
This
added
is
it
the
to-
town rec program.
that we've contracted with the YMCA to run. So this becomes part of the
YMCA,
day
okay.
of a life
But
of a child at a
Right.
program,
Yes,
where
but
we
it's-
have the YMCA and now we're adding, gee, I'm gonna have you at a day in the camp. Me and you.
But
We're gonna,
you know,
we're
it's
gonna make
the town
baskets.
said we need to provide camp for our
Yes.
town children and residents.
Right.
So if this enhanced stuff is within the $10,000 that we allocated, I don't have a
No,
problem
it's not in the
with it.
10,000.
Okay, why
This
don't we
is
look?
beyond the
You know what?
10,000?
Yes, this is beyond. The 10,000 covers the rent, covers our contract with the Y, and covers the transportation.
Bus, okay, but no
Anything
enhanced
this,
program.
so last year, we were all caught by surprise that the Y wasn't providing enough entertainment or activities, because the whole reason we're using the Y is that they provide the activities. This is what they do, that they have the programs. They have someone there that knows how to teach basketball. Maybe Kevin wants to volunteer. I know he teaches basketball. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Someone's offering me.
I was gonna
Why
say,
don't- why
I think your wife right now is,
I,
would
you know,
come in
why
and
don't
suggested that.
we don't have to approve this
Yeah.
tonight, because if they don't have the clinic next week, so be it. I will confirm, Kitty, that it's not a separate town thing. I was told when I called, and I had a 20-minute conversation, and Patty we were on speakerphone, because I was trying to get specific answers to my questions.
Okay.
I was told it was for enhanced programming at the YMCA camp that the former supervisor approved, and they did last year, which is what Jeff is
Yeah.
confirming. Okay, Jeff is
I
confirming.
can't imagine
So-
how a supervisor could just sign off on something
Well, we
like
did, because
this.
remember, we were surprised, and I remember having a long discussion that night about it, and it
Which
turned
is-
out we were
I mean,
paying. We signed the vouchers
I want
for it.
these kids to have whatever we can give them. It's 6 weeks. They're there from 8 in the morning
Why
until
don't we do
whenever
it this way?
is.
Why don't we
Yeah.
do it this way?
So-
Let me find out what the $10,000 is that you have in there for the Y camp to make
Yeah.
sure it covers everything. Then let me talk to Leanne
I
from
was
the
just gonna
Y,
say, yeah.
and, you know, Jeff and I can talk to her, or Jeff can call Leanne. Do you want to call Leanne,
I'll
Jeff?
call Leanne.
So let Jeff call Leanne, let Leanne, find out from Leanne how important these, because I agree with you in a sense that, you know, these are our kids, this is their summer program.
Yeah.
If this makes, you know, their life better, so be it. But at the end of the day, if it's just, we're just doing it for the sake of doing it, you know, I mean,
Let
we
me
do
reach
have
out,
other, we have
and
other.
I'll reach out to Lene Masson and her whole group that organized this last
Yeah.
year and see what their
Right.
take was on it, you know,
And then we'll
from
make it-
last year. Were these programs value added?
Right.
Right.
It's
Are
got
these the
Shanker and
program?
all that.
I'm a little, I would need to be persuaded that every kid there is going to be interested in Zumba and dance class. And I would maybe like to see more things like basketball, which I do think boys and girls would do. I'm just not sure. everybody's
Okay,
gonna do.
so what so Jeff, you're gonna call.
Yeah, I'll call- I'll
and double
call
check
in.
about these enhanced programs and see if maybe there's even something else people might prefer to see or do. I'll double check, Patty's not here next week.
It's all the same
Um,
thing. Yep.
Patty's not here next week, it's gonna be hard to,
To what?
You don't have somebody else to cut checks?
it's not a matter of cutting checks, it's a
Ah.
matter of trying to understand the backup documentation for last year's budget in the
Well,
worksheets is
Oh, for
not
now.
as
We need to
extensive as
see
it used to
these
be.
lines.
That's right, I'm just saying that Patty's not here for me to.
Which lines? The 485? I have the
Yeah.
line right here from this year. You want it from last year?
Oh.
I have it this year, right here. Here it is. There's this year's, but that's from May.
485.
So there's 16,000 in there right now.
But, and
Okay, I
think-
don't know what else is.
but
supposed
No,
to
but I
come
gotta
out
go,
of
I'd have to go
there,
look at my worksheets,
And I
which are
think-
not that
Well,
accurate.
And I
salaries,
think-
equipment, and contractual.
But he said that he was given, he went to the supervisor and was given an enhanced recreation line where there was a certain amount of money set aside, so anytime that the recreation department wanted to add any kind of run a program or do anything, that was not, quote, in the like a standard whatever, there was money there for the recreation department to do it, and that was put in his budget last year.
Okay, does anybody know how much we committed to pay the YMCA for doing the camp?
I don't have the
I
contract.
think
We
it's
don't
on,
pay them.
I think it's on a prorated
This is,
thing.
because this looks like the sum where these are all very specific about your locations and an open-ended recreation activities at 16,000.
That's.
Oh, unless the recreation activities for 16,000 sounds like it could encompass seniors.
But
We
there's
have
no
a
separate
separate
line
line
for the
somewhere else.
seniors.
We have a
Is
separate
it?
line for
But the
senior.
other thing is that
We have a senior
both
line.
Oh, well,
Chuck
then I
and
don't
the
think you should have any
YMCA
money in it.
felt that we would do much better this year, that last year was the first year of our partnership and enrollment wasn't as high as it could have been, and they seemed to feel that they would get more money, get more people signing up.
I don't know, so by being the first year of the partnership, the YMCA has been running the summer rec program for the town since I think 97, 98?
But I don't know, the first year of doing it this way maybe
I don't know what way you're doing it,
at the
different.
middle school and, because it wasn't the college.
Well, they
And
were-
I
no,
don't, was the town involved?
No,
or
the town,
was
what
it
happened,
the
no, this is,
college?
no, yeah. What happened was, we used to run the summer rec program that cost us $250,000.
Right.
Over the summer. You had counselors in here all the time getting their paychecks, remember, Gene, all the time, or whatever. And then I would spend my time with parents coming and complaining to me about, something that happened down at camp. And I used to sit there thinking, I can't believe this is why I'm spending my time.
I think we
So
didn't
then
have the camp for a few years.
So then we brought the YMCA in. We did it at the high school, but then at a certain point it got moved to the college, and then it got moved from the college
But
someplace else.
was it a town program?
No,
or
we
was
turned.
that the college?
We just turned it. The YMCA might have done it when it was at the college. But we
Yeah,
turned
I
it. Well,
don't think the
technically, we were
town-
not running a
Right.
program
The
at
Y
all.
did do it
was the
when it was at
YMCA
the
was
college.
running it,
Yeah.
and we just allocated, at least for the few years I was here, $25,000 instead of $250,000. We allocated $25,000 because what happened was when the Y took the program over, because they added more hours, they raised the cost, and so to
Right.
offset for the parents that couldn't afford the increased cost, we did a scholarship of
Right.
$25,000
Right.
She
to help
increased the
offset.
contract with the Y.
And that's what we did
That's the
until.
Y contract for this year.
And then, and so they've been running it for forever, and then at a certain point, I know that you guys
That page has the rates.
took the $25,000 away, because I came to lobby for you to put the money back in, because it was scholarship money. But I think you ended up changing, you didn't do the scholarship.
Well, you can't,
I think
scholarships you can't do
Oh,
without.
we could, I mean,
Schedule
we did it for years, and we
Well,
weren't
they're
told
against the
that.
law.
Well, we weren't told that when we
Yeah,
were doing
yeah.
it, that's all I'm gonna say, is that,
Later on, we found
when we
out
did
that-
it, we were never told that, but I remember at that time you were told, and then so you reallocated how you spent the money. You
Yeah.
still gave them the money, but you offset other costs instead of the scholarship.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what you've done since.
Well,
because,
this is this year's
They-
contract.
It
so.
was basically to subsidize the
Yeah.
tuition for New Paltz residents, but not scholarship.
Well, so it's just change
Right.
words, because that's
Right.
what the
Right.
scholarship was.
But, like, you didn't have to have an income-based application. Every New Paltz resident was
Oh,
eligible.
okay.
That's
Okay,
the
that was the
difference.
difference.
Yeah.
Um,
All right, so we're good
okay.
until June 30th.
So we're good with
Thanks
June
to
30th, okay.
We're going to.
Okay, and so.
Sherlock
so
Massacari.
The only problem
Okay.
is trying to get on top of some of the lines
Thank
in the
you.
budget
You're
without.
welcome.
So we pay the Y
I think Carol-
$7,700 a year to run camp.
Yes.
700?
$7,700. That's the busing and everything.
Oh, to commence as of June 25th.
There's your answer.
But what
And
does
to
it,
conclude on
what does it say?
August
What does it
17th.
say in there that the money,
About,
does it say the buses? It says,
No, the
It
buses
says
are,
transportation.
oh, just as transportation.
because we take care of the transportation.
Oh,
Well,
well,
that
wait a
was
minute.
signed.
That's why I'm asking.
No,
look
well,
at the tr-
because this was probably on an agenda in March.
Okay,
It's Jeff's copy.
gotcha.
But if it says transportation, does it
Right,
delineate
it might
transportation?
just
Because
say
that might
about
answer our
the
bus,
mileage.
our bus.
What's
our
on the
bus-
back? It's on here. Town of New Paltz, a lease fee, transportation to and from the pool 3 times a week.
So if it's
Oh.
a lease fee, that means-
So a lease fee to Lenape, which apparently they've moved since we got the contract.
They actually
Jeff
literally
told us.
they literally just moved a week
Okay.
ago. I mean, and we approved that contract last month.
Okay, and so the transportation is an estimate not to exceed 5,600 from Lenape to Moriello Pool. Does it say anything about our commitment to drivers?
Well, it says the town of New Paltz shall provide transportation to and from.
I can't imagine that that cost doesn't cover the cost of the drivers. The school district's not gonna pay for the drivers,
I
But
would agree.
that's- Right, so we are gonna pay
which is probably
$5,600.
what the 5,600 is.
Right, to
you
take
know.
the kids to the pool 3 times a
What,
week.
you don't think 5,600 is for the mileage?
I've seen drivers.
From
raise-
Lenape?
Bus driver rates at $26 an hour.
Mm-hmm. It depends on how many years they've been working.
No.
But I'll call in.
Okay.
Well, you'll call in,
But
Jeff's
we've
gonna
agreed to
call,
pay-
Leanne
Thank you,
as well.
Jeff.
try to figure it all out.
Thanks,
And,
Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we're gonna hold off on doing these clinics until Jeff reports back if he thinks, A, there's better programs, if they really need these programs, and make sure that the YMCA programs, not town programs,
Yep.
which I was told. Okay, one last thing before we, on the youth, I was asked by our rec director that, when we established your fees for the youth, for the community center, that you didn't specifically establish youth, fees for youth programs, and what was
We
requested.
can, I can answer those real easily. So
Okay.
can Kevin.
So-
Is that the reason you don't put youth programming in? Because all the youth programming is us, is the town. It's free because it's us. If it's a youth program, it's done either through Jim Tigger's group, which we don't charge, or it's done through the town,
Well, I
which
think-
is us.
Well, I think what Chuck was saying was that there's a bunch of youth programs that could be offered through the community center that people are willing to.
Then they need to go,
provide-
then we have a discussion with Chuck, as Kevin and I discussed with him, then what he needs to do is then direct them to Jim Tiger and then can bring them into part of our
Well,
community.
well, I might disagree with you there, because Jim Tigger and the youth center is specifically geared to a certain type of kid that goes to the youth center, and Jim is not charged with providing youth programming for all the kids of New Paltz. He runs the youth center. and the kids
No,
go to the
that's,
youth
no, that's,
center.
no,
Oh, I mean, I guess he
no.
does the Easter egg hunt.
no
Is
certain-
that-
No,
type
no.
of kid,
Wait, first of
right.
all, I don't even want to get into those sometimes kids.
No, I mean that. I just mean that there's
I'm just
kids
using
that-
your words, but simply, no, the youth center is directed to go to 100% of the youths in our community. Period, all of them. Period. I mean, you got everyone nodding yes here, except
Yeah.
you, Susan.
Right.
It goes to 100% of the New Paltz
The
youth.
youth
Going
center.
back to
So
this,
I think
so
you
I can
just
clarify it.
misspoke a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Just to go back on this.
So the other one is, so
I-
that's why we
If-
purposely didn't do youth.
No,
If it's a youth event, and they wanna come in and rent the space, it's not town sponsored, then we have a fee structure for that, and they can charge or not charge, depending on what they wanna do.
Right, I understand that, and what Jim is, and what was being asked was that there are people who want to do a sponsored program at the community center for youth, and I was asked to ask the board to establish the rate to be similar to what we charge for the seniors, because otherwise, the people who want to provide programming could not make it work, because I guess what they want to charge this youth is similar to what people want to charge the seniors to make it cost effective.
It's $40 an hour for a non-reseller.
So for $40 an hour, they could have a youth program there, or if it's a program that might be with the arts, we have a special rate for the arts community. So if it's an arts program, they could reach out to the arts community,
Well, why
run
don't
it
we
through
just do
them.
it this way, since
Wait,
two of
we
you
have a
are.
special rate for the arts community?
The arts community still does we have a rate for the arts community to run their programs there. We agreed to that, yeah. The arts
Where?
community,
It should just be, I mean, I just don't know what it is.
So Susan, did he give you
What-
an example?
What,
of what
which,
he
you know,
was talking about?
which one don't we do it this way? I'd really rather just,
Why don't
two of
Jeff
you,
and I just
I was just
do
to
We
say.
will just meet with him again.
I was about to
Yeah.
say,
We
two
will
of
again,
you,
it'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
The two
It'll be
of
a
you
great
go
time.
meet, do your
And the
talks
reason
and-
why there's no difference between resident and non-resident is we'd like to encourage, as silly as this sounds, we'd like to encourage programs to be run up there. So we asked Chuck to go out and market it, and that's why there isn't a different rate. There's a very good reason for it.
You
Otherwise,
mean
his
for
rate
the
is-
seniors? For
No,
the
but he-
seniors, there's no resident, non-resident.
Well, no, he
There's
put no.
also no differentiation on the recreational activity-based
I
programs.
see.
It's only if you're gonna resell this.
Right.
Well, I
You're
was
gonna
one-
come in and you're gonna charge $12 a kid as a reseller
Right.
versus coming in and doing something for a modest number.
well, I was one who actually specifically asked him if we have a discount for residents versus non-residents who are taking classes, of which I was told no, and then when I guess I must have asked you, Kevin, and you said that you guys gave a discount for the teachers who are residents, but not for the people taking the classes?
No,
We
no, no,
gave-
no, no.
yeah, we did.
The instructors are supposed to charge out-of-town residents more than town residents.
Well, that-
We
well-
They are.
were charging
They're not.
resellers that were non-residents more than resident resellers.
Oh, actually,
It's
I
all out of the
suppose
hand.
that now that it's just a flat
Right.
rate, we don't really care.
Right, so if
Well,
you're,
actually, well,
we
that- well,
don't, we're trying to get programs into the center.
I
That's the
see.
whole
But
point.
well, I happen to specifically ask that,
Yeah.
Okay.
because I still, it doesn't matter, I'm not gonna die over it, it's just, I mean, I still might feel in a way, no matter what programs are offered there, New Paltz residents should still get a discount because it's our taxpayers' money that goes to run and operate and pay the people there. And so therefore, I think anything that's used by people outside of our community, our residents should always be getting a discount because it's their money that's operating it. So I had asked the question, and Chuck said no, and so I went back to Kevin and said, Kevin, why aren't we discounting our residents? And he said, we're discounting, I thought you said people who,
We
but I
have a-
still believe our residents should always get discounts on
Yeah,
We
everything.
no, I
have a
think that's-
discount for a resident for a private party. We have a discount for a resident for a seminar presentation. We have and like Jeff said, all the recreational activities, community-based, were town-sponsored, so there was no charge for that.
They can come in at no charge if it's a town-sponsored event. So they have if one of our residents has a great idea for recreation activity, bring it to Chuck, and we will sponsor it as a town. And the way we sponsor it is we could say, our sponsorship, part of this is we're not gonna pay you as an instructor, but we will give you the community center. So we do have a discount. It's free. Just get it vetted through our recreation director, or they could reach out to any one of these town board members sitting here, and we will help you go through our recreation department and get it accomplished. So,
Okay.
we're just trying to make it, get as many programs
So
run up
for
there
you,
as
if
possible.
Well,
you wanted to
And get-
offer a yoga class,
Mhm.
right? And it was non-town sponsored reseller, right? The yoga class, the person that wants to come in and teach is 50. If you come in and you're not reselling it, it's not.
Seriously.
We were not selling it.
It depends on what you charge your participants to participate in the program.
Well, I mean, I think, I agree with you that you're trying to get programming going, and I think what Chuck was saying was that we can get a bunch of youth programming going if we establish the same rate as seniors. There's a bunch of people who want to do youth programming here, that at the senior rate, they can provide all these programmings and make it work. So I said, I'll take it to the board.
We'll talk, Kevin
So
and
why
I
don't
will
you
meet
two
with,
talk? That's
we'll meet
great.
with Chuck and see
That's
what youth
great.
programming he has
That's
in the
great.
pipe.
Okay. Okay, so let's just move on so we can go home.
Well, I just
sorry,
would
go
like
ahead.
to point out that we spent a couple of $100,000 on free programming for youth in this town. So,
Can you, I mean, honestly,
I-
can you tell me what, like, how,
Sorry,
what,
At the youth center.
No, but Kitty, you're talking about a couple $100,000 in cost, doesn't always translate into recreation for children.
yeah. I mean, the youth center,
Well, there's
the money
the
that,
skate park and,
Well,
we have,
your overhead associated with the rec program is really salary intensive. And that's where most of your cost is. It's not really, it doesn't really necessarily translate down into the program.
I would really have, and I don't know if this is time, and I don't want to get into the debate, but I would really argue with you that I disagree that the money we spend in the youth center is money we spend on the youth in New Paltz. And yes, it's open to any kid to go there, but not all kids in New Paltz go to the youth center. A lot of kids go to ballet or go to other things or go home and play, do homework or whatever. And I remember specifically when we brought the YMCA in, and they were doing certain things, and I remember talking with Jim and talking with the YMCA, and they were very clear at the YMCA in programming that they were trying to start to offer, like when we did the teaching kids how to swim at the college, I don't know if you remember and stuff, they were very clear, we serve a certain group of youth in New Paltz, Jim serves a certain group of youth in New Paltz, and, we should keep that distinction because they're just different needs of different kids, and we provide programming
For everybody.
but it's not, I don't believe that all the money you spend for the youth center can be said that we provide $100,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars of recreation for youth in New Paltz. I think
it might not be called recreation, it might not qualify as recreation, but it certainly provides companionship and community.
there's absolutely benefit, there's absolutely benefit to it, there's no doubt about that, but there's, I don't know how many kids go,
But,
20,
so
30?
are we being
No, I
asked,
mean,
are we being
everybody-
asked to provide free recreation at the community
No,
center? I'm just not sure.
all, like, in other words, if somebody goes to the youth center and wants to provide a programming for seniors, we have a special rate.
Okay.
That's lower than a lot of the other rates, so they don't have to charge the seniors so much to make it work. I gather there are people who want to provide youth programming at the community center, and so if they are able to rent the place at the same rent that they do the seniors, then they don't have to charge the youth that much, and that can make the program successful. But the youth wouldn't be able to pay possibly the same amount of money that any of us sitting at the table could pay to go to do yoga. So the way we discounted the seniors, he wants to discount the youth, so they can provide programming at the community center.
Don't forget why we did this. We did this to make it simple,
I understand that.
because before it was
And
hundreds
all-
of checks at $18.
No, we're not looking to change anything else,
Yeah,
other than the
no.
fact that I got a call that
We
people want to
love
provide.
doing our vouchers.
That people want, all we did is
How
get a
much
call.
easier was it? Just
Oh,
getting
my
rid of those
God.
30
Change
vouchers.
anything at
All
all,
those little
other than the
crosses.
fact that I guess some people have gone in, or Chuck has some ideas for some youth
So we'll
programming.
work it out with Joe.
And he asked me if.
Kevin and I will set up a meeting with
Thank you
Chuck.
very much.
Okay, moving
Okay.
on.
Moving
Okay.
forward.
So wetlands litigation attorney fee, you all got your letter from
Yeah.
the attorney that basically said that now that we're moving forward and we reviewed it, we decided how to go, that we need to up the ante. And so do I have a
Oh,
motion?
yeah, I wanted to see where that was.
Can I have a
in the
motion
budget.
to increase the attorney fee for the wetlands litigation by
Not the fee,
$20,000?
just the amount of,
Right.
Phrase it however you want, Jeff.
I make a motion
that kidding me.
that we authorize up to another $20,000 for the defense of our wetlands law to the Rodenhausen and Rapport Myers law firm.
Anybody want to make a second?
second.
Any discussion?
The simple discussion is just, I hope, and I understand how this is from
Article
the
78.
Article 78, and it is a fantastic tool, but, just on this now, second Article 78, we're gonna probably be $25,000 in. And I just find that's very sad that we have residents of our community that feel that the only way, instead of working, because we cannot now sit, while it's in litigation, we cannot sit and discuss with any of the residents possible changes to the law. So instead of us working and using attorney fees and engineering fees to possibly modify the law, we're using attorney fees and engineering fees to defend the current law. And I think it's just absolutely a very sad statement that residents feel the best course of action is to immediately go to litigation and not try to work with the board and spend this money much more wisely, because we cannot recoup this money through insurance. This is money coming out directly out of every taxpayer's pockets.
So my question is, did you put money in the budget knowing that you were adopting this law at the end of last year?
I suspect we did. Let's look.
I guess just out of Jeff, I don't disagree with you in theory. I guess I'd only ask the question, was that ever offered to the residents that were upset with
we
them?
begged them at every public hearing to tell us which part of the law you would like us to change.
I was
And
at
more
one of
often-
those meetings.
And more often than not, we got speeches in civics and the Constitution, probably the few amendments thrown in there, and a lot of big words were used.
I think Washington and Jefferson were quoted.
I think,
I
yes,
would
George
just-
Washington
I would
and maybe
just-
even Lincoln was quoted.
I think I remember those quotes, but I would suggest for the future.
I don't,
that
I
the
see
town-
wetlands
town-
protection contractual expense, $0.
Jeff, Kevin was speaking.
I'm sorry.
Just, I suggest for the future that the town really engage the groups that are most affected by these laws, actually bring them in, like we
Well,
brought
Kevin, I
sewer-
I
like we
will,
brought
yeah,
sewer
I
six
agree,
in
and- but
tonight.
I will disagree with you on this, because the wetlands law, we held 6 public forums and had everyone from our attorneys at these forums to Dave Gordon at them. I sat at every one of them. Our own supervisor didn't even make it to all of them at that time. Our attorneys did. There was one meeting I sat with 3 people.
Right.
3 people up in the community. So, Kevin, I disagree with you. The wetlands law, we could not have had. Kitty and I sat at one. I think there was maybe 5 people showed
And it,
up too.
you know, it was.
And they were on weekend. We had one on a Saturday morning. We had them at nights. We held them every possible conceivable
I
time.
realize that, you get the
Yeah.
same thing at the school board meetings,
I agree.
okay? You don't get big time participation, but I think the problem you have is that people don't understand, even today, what the real impact is on them, and they won't find that out until later. So, I think, again, my point is, I think the way that you handled this tonight with Sewer 6 is the way to handle things like this going forward, where you actually get the people to give you their input.
And we
Well,
did that.
we
That we
did.
modified. Yeah, I disagree with that.
But
We
look,
modified the law based on
I appeared at one
input.
meeting and was criticized by a board member for a couple statements I made that were logical. I didn't understand that. That was for the wetlands law. I mean, I basically appeared at a meeting and said, the purpose of the law is to preserve the aquifers, the quality of the water, the vernal pools, and basically asked if there was any water studies done to determine water quality. Nobody's ever done that. And now I just see Jim Littlefoot, he has a report that he circulated to all the town board members about the feces level in our water, Walk Hill River. And, you know, that's actually the biggest polluter around, is the Walk Hill River. And we're not doing anything about
Well,
that.
it's not the source of the contamination.
Well,
It's the artery of the contamination.
Okay.
Yes, but
But
yeah.
that's
but-
probably
but
the
to
biggest
go
problem we
back-
have in this community is the sewer system. And everybody just looks away from the problem. I mean, in a flood, it all dumps downriver. Nobody's doing anything about
Yeah,
that.
well,
It's a
it's coming
serious
from
problem.
New Jersey.
That's
I mean,
going to affect the quality
It-
of water more than anything.
Absolutely. But back to your point about bringing in the residents, after the flooding of 2009, I think, when residents were stranded for 3 or 4 days, we had several roundtable discussions with lots of Springtown Road residents, and I'm not going to name them, but they know who they were, and the Board of Health, because they were really concerned because the water had come up over their wells. And, you know, so they have wells that are under the Walk Hill River, which was scary for people. So we had a lot of discussions with residents in that area. And actually or maybe it was 2007. And that was partially how we framed revising the law, based on, I think, it was 3 or 4 meetings. Karen Cathers and Miriam.
You're talking about the floodplain law? The
Before
flood-
the wetlands law, sorry.
You're talking, this is the floodplain law.
No,
you're
I'm talking about when we revised the wetlands law.
All right.
Okay, so anyway, Jean, did you find the money in the budget?
I don't think we have any.
I don't
No,
have a
you
full
have,
budget.
legal fees in the A fund, fees in the B fund. There is a line in the B fund that says wetlands contractual expense, but there is no money budgeted in it. And you are at a lower percentage in attorney's fees in the A fund. And I'm presuming since the wetlands this is a town-wide attack, so we have to pay for it out of the A fund. I guess my only question is, I don't remember if Joe's on retainer or not. And if he's not, well, then just stop calling him.
No, she's saying that we have to.
You have $48,000 left at the end of May in the A fund and $37,000 left in the B fund.
All I can say is I didn't call Joe for the first
And
3
actually-
months that I was in office. Did you guys even see any?
And actually,
And it was
Gina,
only
and
recently
Gina
that
will
he's,
attest to having
he's
this
back around.
conversation with our past supervisor, and Kitty will attest to it. Our town attorney used to be a 4 or 5 page bill every month.
Do you know what?
I think it has not exceeded 2 pages since
It
Susan's
did
been
this
in office.
month.
Okay, this month. I didn't see this month, but
But you know what
Susan
I'm
has not
thinking?
exceeded 2 pages, so.
The
And you haven't
fact
gotten this
that
the first 2
you
or 3
have
months.
a line item in your B fund called wetlands, contractual expense, the fact that that's there means something was anticipated and nothing was budgeted for it.
I think it's carried over.
It's carried
from
over, in
when
other
we
words,
paid
that-
for it the last time. We have a lot
Ah.
of zero.
I would have to go
line
back.
items from
I would have to
the
go back. I bet if I
past.
go back a couple of years, that I will find that it
Right.
was populated for a reason.
Oh.
Right now, I can't tell you. I'd have to
So,
go
but
back and look at
technically,
this.
if the wetlands law only does not include the village,
Right.
so the lawsuit.
Well, I would think it wouldn't include the village,
Well,
no.
it can.
I know, I understand that, so if the town is being sued,
How are you paying
But
Well,
did
we
you pay
have
for it,
to,
you paid for it out of the B fund?
B fund, probably.
Paid for it out of the B fund. So,
which is of great value to the village, because if the law works, a lot of village residents will not be subject to the kind of flooding that was coming down at them from North Putt and North
With
Ohio.
the raw sewage was done.
well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Right now, we're just trying to figure out finances of how we're gonna pay for this, so we do it correctly, and that's all I wanna focus on for the moment.
You know what? I think that I would like you to ask Joe, because or I'll call the comptroller's office, because the reality is, when there is any lawsuit against the town, I don't know that you can segregate between town-wide and town outside of village. I mean, to me, in my mind, it is just flat out town-wide, because basically, they're coming after the board, which is a fund.
And we certainly had a lot of village residents encouraging us to pass it, although.
Okay, so right now, it's
Doesn't
coming out of
directly
the A
affect
fund, we have to.
All right, so
It's
let's
only,
find
what is
out.
it, it's June, so, and you're saying, Gee, we have how much left? That's.
48.
And then we first subtract 20.
You had 48,000 at the end of May. That doesn't include June's bills yet,
Which is about
or it doesn't
7.
include May's bills.
And what's
we
the
just-
total amount
April
that we
and
have?
May are about
But-
7,000.
And how much do we have total for the attorney for the year?
65,000.
And you were saying we're up to.
You have 48.
Oh, we spent it, we're
48 left.
Left.
So
That's the number,
so
but
if
once
you
we
want to
minus
pass, if
25.
you want to pass a law, you got to take out about about $4,000.
And
So we might not want to make any new laws this year.
Well,
There
if
goes
we
the,
need a
there
new
goes
law,
the,
we make a new law.
chickens.
If we don't, we don't.
So we have
Okay,
but
okay,
we
so-
second and everything.
And we have, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion so carried. Okay, the last thing before we just touch on any department reports that anybody wants is if you remember correctly, we voted to ask for the county to hold off on foreclosing on some land out by past the Zodiac, which we could use for our town water system. And so we authorized them to hold off. We authorized the money to acquire the land. Kevin was working on the due diligence of doing the title search, so.
I've gotten some preliminary title work in on it. There is a need to have some additional title work done with respect to the foreclosed properties, because there may be a chain of title issue, which I should have resolved by next week's meeting. I've gotten title work from Bruce Blashley's firm, on the proposal for a client, a testamentary trust actually donating property to the town, and that title work looks fine. So I'll give you a full report next Wednesday.
Can you tell us how many acres that parcel is?
Did
The
we?
testamentary, right?
This one is, it appears to be 6
Okay, I just couldn't tell from the map which one.
And did it look, I didn't, I mean, I drive my bike by it every day and drive by it every day just about, so is it a piece of property that, Kevin, did you look at it, like is it something that we would be able to use potentially for?
I think it would be used as a potential water source.
I think
And it's deep, it's all wetland, I know that.
And I think
And
we
about
talked,
where
I
it is.
think I talked with Dave when we were looking to do this, and I think if I remember correctly, he had said that it actually abuts the, Vanessa, is it Vanessa property that was donated to the town, or that?
Bar Vanessa, by the hotel,
By the 87,
Yeah, the,
Establishment.
yes, yes, that was donated to us, yes.
That land was
Yeah.
donated, I think this land abuts it.
Okay.
So that's why, I think if I remember correctly, when
Good.
Kevin called me about the land, and then I think I called Dave to say, Dave, is this land that is worth it for us, you know, in terms of the water system, and he said it's perfect because it actually adds to the Knesset and the whole park or whatever. So that's how we
Is this the
proceeded
parcel?
to,
And the lost taxes on this are probably in the hundreds of dollars,
Okay, come on.
It's,
couple $100.
no, $7,000.
Oh, it's, oh, it is?
we already
Oh.
authorized,
Back
we already authorized the
This is
expenditure.
the 6 point.
No, I mean, no, that we're collecting on it
But I think,
each year.
I think
Oh.
once we take title to these properties, we might consider doing as well as just a single step.
Good idea.
Very good idea.
Okay, so
Thank you,
that's
Kevin.
that. So, okay, so with that, then, is there anything in any of the department reports that anybody has any questions about? And if you didn't get them, I'll double check tomorrow
Yeah, I
to see
didn't
what
get 'em.
happened, and we can always, you can look at them. And now, we make hard copies, like I said, we tried not to, you know, give each one of you copies of everything in trying to the spirit of zero waste, as a zero waste community. But we do print out one complete set that's here, and so anybody can look at it and whatever. But I will check tomorrow to see what got sent out, what didn't get sent out, and get from there. And then just in terms of committee reports, is there anything anybody wants to report on?
Did you hear back from Brenda Parks? She was gonna call you and we were gonna know what was happening?
Yeah, I have not heard back from her. You have the public access meeting on Monday, right?
Right, well, you and I cannot go because we have the joint
Oh,
town board.
Okay. Let me just double check to see if she's on the
planning board.
calendar for tomorrow.
But she absolutely promised that she would have
No,
it
she
let
definitely,
us
no,
by
she
today.
definitely. That's what I'm looking to see on my calendar to just see. Because every time we hang up the phone, we never hang up without scheduling another time to talk on the phone. This way I can assure myself that we're keeping it moving.
While you're looking at that, I think somebody else was assigned to the bike thing.
Jeff was assigned to Bike Ped, and you were assigned to Open Space.
Just wanted to, maybe we'd like to switch there, so it's.
In case anybody's not doing anything while I'm looking at my calendar, if nobody's doing anything Sunday night, you might want to go to Keegan Ale for a Save Our Water anti-fracking commercial with environmental advocates, where they're doing a whole Save Our Beer. They're doing a whole Save Our Beer campaign all over the state, and on Sunday nights at Keegan Ale in Kingston, which I won't be at because I did the commercial for them.
But
But
what
I'll
Brenda
call
had
Brenda
said
tomorrow. I
was
know.
that she was gonna get you a letter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, she was gonna get me she was gonna get me what properties they still had in town,
Right.
that they still quote how to wire it and how they were gonna settle the money that's owed. But
Has she sent that letter?
I didn't see the letter, but again, I wasn't in today at all. So
I mean, she said she would have it to you
yeah, she was supposed to
by
have it
the
to me. I
18th.
think she was supposed to. So let me follow up with her tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, yesterday I was in Albany and today I was sick, so I might have a
Oh,
lot
what
of stuff.
happened in Albany?
Well, I wish I knew the complete answer. What happened in Albany was the state Senate passed passed the amendment to the program bill to give up to $1 million to communities that consolidate. When I went to the assembly and spoke with our assemblyman, it had come out of Ways and Means, it was in rules, and he would see if it came to the floor. They were probably meeting till 10 o'clock last night. I had to leave at 6 o'clock to get something in Newport at 7 o'clock. So I don't know what happened because I woke up sick this morning and didn't have a chance to sort of double check. I was hoping I'd have an email or a phone call or something.
So doesn't somebody have to bring it to the floor?
It finally did. Senator Bonasek brought his to the floor 2 months ago.
Right.
The assembly bill was brought to the floor on Monday, which was the last day it could be brought to the floor. I had spoken with Langdon Chapman, who Senator Bonasek's office, I have to say, has just been absolutely incredible in terms of their attentiveness to this and calling me every step of the way to let me know what's going on. So Langdon and I had spoken, and there was a great concern that Monday was the last day that the bill could be in because it has to age for 3 days, and today's the last day of session. And so, and the governor's office was working on making some amendments to the language.
That's
So the
last
governor's
thing I
office and Senator Bonasek's office worked with them. They got the language to Kevin, Assemblyman Cahill. It's Assemblyman Cahill, and I followed up with his office on Friday, and I called Jerry Benjamin's office to say, what's going on, what's going on, what's going on. I was told on Monday that it got introduced on Monday. And by Assemblyman Cahill, it got introduced on Monday. And then when I went up yesterday, it did go through the state Senate, and it had made it through Ways and Means, and there was actually even a message for me from Langdon Chapman to let me know it got passed, even though I saw Senator Bonasek's personally, but there was a message from Langdon that said that it went through the Senate, and that as he understood it, it had passed Ways and Means, and that was a very good sign, but it was going to rules, and he didn't know what would happen on the floor. And I spoke with a number of assembly people that I know pretty well, so I started to sort of talk to them about the bill. So if it should come to discussion on the floor, there would be other assembly people supporting us and stuff. What seemed to be very, very clear through the legislation that Dr. Benjamin had written, where it talks about amending it, nobody seems to understand that actually through the consolidation it would be one government. They only understood that it was coterminous boundaries, that in other words the boundaries of the village would incorporate, equal the boundaries of the town, but they still thought that there would still be two governments, and they all were saying up in Albany, why is this consolidation? Langdon, luckily enough, was able to say that in the bill, it has to go to the Department of State, and the Department of State has to give the approval to us to give us the money and stuff, so the Department of State could say, well, you have to be one government anyway. So that was how Langdon got them to basically, sort of say, don't worry about it, they have to go to the Department of State, and the Department of State to dictate whatever it is that they want in order for us to comply. And so it was no problem with the Senate. Hopefully it was no problem with the assemblies, but like I said, I spoke with a number of assembly people to explain to them it was one government. The assemblywoman from Rockland County, she's wonderful. She loved the site to go with, she thought it was phenomenal. A couple of other assembly people asked me about it, they loved the idea. Nobody's ever heard of this coterminous townwide village concept. So they all really liked it. Senator Benny Little asked me to come talk to her about this concept and stuff.
There are a ton of villages in Rockland.
Yeah, and there's a ton of villages and one town that, yes, they were saying that they were very excited about this, that this could be an opportunity or something. So, I don't know, because I wasn't here today, I didn't, hopefully there's an email, telling me that it happened, but there were no phone calls telling me it happened, so I am a little nervous, but ultimately though, just truth is, even if it didn't pass this session, it's not 100% the lost cause, because there's still a possibility that the governor could do it through a program change, and we're going to be doing our work. You don't get the money until you actually do all the work anyway and prove that there's a savings to the taxpayers. So the truth is, we're not going to get done with our work till the end of November, December. We could always have it ready to be introduced in January if it didn't happen. Or in January, it's done in a more constructive fashion because we'll already have all of our research, all of our work, and so now we're just asking them to help us put it over the top. So even if it doesn't get passed, it's not over, it's not done, it's not dead and stuff. And but hopefully, it will give us more impetus if it got passed. And it finally did get introduced. So that was a major
progress.
accomplishment. It
That
got
is
introduced into both houses, and not from lifting a lot of weights to get it done. So, I will just very quickly, the community partnership, but I'll make some announcements next week, because there's a lot of work they're doing, and there's a lot of ability for people to volunteer. But they did have a barbecue last week that I went to, and Joey Schneider was there, and Patrick Roush from the school district was there, a number of people from a lot of different services, and the district attorney's office sent somebody down to talk about drunk driving. And it was a good meeting. They went through a bunch of stuff and talked about how they want to get the community more involved, and they're going to try to start to hold a lot more of those type of things. And we actually talked about trying to get a actual public access program going for the community partnership, so anybody who has prevention programming, who wants to like do a half-hour show as a way to get information out to the public, you know. And one of the things they were talking about in the I mean, of course, one of the biggest issues right now is prescription drugs, prescription drugs, and there was unfortunately a suicide attempted recently for the kid who, took a bunch of prescription drugs out of somebody's whatever, and luckily somebody got them in time to save the kid. And there's a lot of cutting that goes on, so there's a lot of issues that the community partnership wants to talk about and educate people maybe through public access and stuff. So they're really working hard, and Phoenix is just really, really on top of all of this. And so we're gonna start. They have their steering committee meetings that a lot of people go to. Then they have their regular meetings that a lot of people don't go to. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually invite somebody from the school district, somebody from the village, different sectors, and start to actually invite people and say, would you please come to the meeting and get involved, because it takes a community to deal with this. And so they are moving forward. And so, they might change the times when they meet to make it more available for people to come. So that's at least on that committee. I don't know if there's any other committees.
Well, also, I'll just add to it also, I had actually, because I worked that night for the barbecue, but the night before, I was out at the high school for the final Piglets presentation, and Phoenix was there. And not only did she stay for the group that worked with her, but she stayed for all the presentations out there. And she has an excellent rapport with Bonnie and Dave, the two instructors of the class, and they already have plans to, unfortunately, she came in kind of late for the Piglets class.
Yeah.
So now, for next year already, she'll be utilizing at least 2 or 3 programs so that if not more. So she really does have herself well connected to the high school already, and has a great relationship with some of the very key players out there in the program in the community. So I look forward to it.
She spoke last about the Piglet class and about how, really having the youth actually identify what, they think and what they feel and what they would want to see done. Now you have to talk to the youth, and she talked about with the Piglet kids, that there's a number of kids in the district that also say, there's a lot of us that are really great kids that aren't doing drugs, and everybody thinks we're all doing drugs, and so she was sort of saying how to give voice to those kids, to also let, people know whatever. So, it's a great move, and let's hope.
Yeah, no, I'm
her.
excited with her. She,
Yeah.
like I said, I saw a lot of energy in her out of just at that one thing. So I'm glad to see
You'll be seeing a
she's
lot
also-
more of her. You'll
Good.
be seeing a lot more of her. So is there any other committee reports that need to be done, or we can just approve the minutes and the warrants and go home?
Let's approve it,
I
yes.
would like to touch on the New York State retirement system yet
Okay.
again.
And I actually got something from the state.
Yes, you did. I'm looking at it.
Okay. And I actually had it in my folder to say, Jean.
Okay, so little calendars like this. Susan, Kitty, Jeff, Chris, I know, took care of his. Rosanna probably took care of hers. Lori King, I don't know that we did Lori King initially, the part-time assessor. She was noted in the original audit. So the comptroller's office wants Lori King, which I don't know that we put her on that in it. We did?
We did.
Okay, so we need either timesheets, if we determine timesheets, or the 3-month activity log from Lori King. The 2 justices, do you remember, Rosanna, if we put them on?
Yes, we did.
Okay. All right, so Susan, Kitty, Jeff, Jill, me, both justices and Lori King have to turn in our 3 months'
Okay.
worth of
Susan,
records
Kitty,
of
Jeff, Jill, the
Okay, and it's
assessor.
okay if I return mine in from last year?
Yes, because there's actually, in other words, we will simply be certified, you will be recertified,
Okay.
because once you do a record of activities, it's good for like 5 or 7 years or 8 years, something like
All of
that.
my dates are 2011. Okay.
And Carol Connolly, Susan, or we did timesheets
Carol
for
does
her.
timesheets.
We did do timesheets for
Well, I know
Carol
Carol does
Connolly.
do timesheets.
We did do timesheets for Carol Connolly.
And she does do timesheets, but you mean we have to turn hers in?
No, means
Oh.
we just have to file it on the schedule with the rest of us. Okay, so Rosanna, Lynn, and Susan, email it to them. This is the format the state's looking for?
They said it could be like that.
Okay.
I mean,
Whatever, if you
I am
just
not
do
redoing
something,
it.
Kitty, that's fine.
It's a lot of work.
Okay. And I'm not ignoring Kevin, I just know that Kevin's not a member. So I'm not
Jean,
ignoring Kevin.
Basically, in essence.
Could you do it ASAP, because now we have a deadline,
And when is the deadline?
July 11th.
Okay, so I probably have a copy of.
And
that
then
now.
after we get ours together, we're gonna have you write a letter? Yes, because you're going to put in there that although it is noted in your audit report, it's impossible for you to provide the schedules for Tony Hokinson, Mike Nielsen, Marion Capolino, and Guy Vest, okay? Because they're gone. So I need you to put that in a letter when we send it back to the state,
Okay,
okay?
I will have you help me write with the
Yep.
letter when we are time to go back to
See,
the
I
state.
told you we got everything under control.
Okay, I guess we have to explain to
so-
the assessor and the court clerks what they have to do.
Not the court clerks.
Do you think they know how to do it?
No,
The
it's
judges,
just
just
Jim
the
and
judges.
Jonathan,
Oh, Jim, I thought you said the clerks.
the
two judges.
justices.
Oh, 2 justices. So we have to show them what they have to do.
Did we-
I got Chris's.
You got Chris's, I know.
I got Jim Tinger's.
Didn't you send the justices an email when you sent it to, Chuck Bordino is appointed.
Right.
He has to do one.
I spoke to him about
I know.
it, so I'll remind him.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'll give you a copy of this, and I'll give Susan a copy, and I'll
Okay,
put a
so-
copy back in Lynn's box too.
Rosanna, are you gonna send out that thing and tell them
Can
they
you
need to-
just do email reminders to them?
Yes.
All right.
But did we ever send them the actual form that they, the calendar, so they know how to do it?
Well, everybody can do their own, like I did.
I know, but
mine.
if Gina's saying that the state would like it that way, if we just send them.
You can find a blank template online. It doesn't have to be a
Well,
certain.
if you want, Carol can scan that tomorrow, and then we could just send it with the reminder that basically
Okay.
says.
I see what
that
you're
basically
saying.
says,
Do it like this.
just why don't you do it like
Right.
this, it'll be
Okay.
easier, just get it done and get it back to us.
Example.
Yeah.
Okay. Jean, can you make
I'm gonna do it right
Okay,
after the
great.
meeting's
Okay.
over.
I also have a thing from the Controller's Office saying this is the second notice that the town of
See
New
that
Paltz
too.
annual financial report for the fiscal year is overdue, which we know that we had already told them. So they're asking for me to send in our annual report, which hopefully might be ready by like the first or second week of July. This is insane, this is crazy. So I will be responding to them saying, just like I'm having trouble getting me the annual report to you, you're having trouble getting your controller's report to me. So I hope to have mine to you by the second week of July, and I hope you have yours to me by the second week of July. So
And the, our auditor feels confident that she'll have everything.
No. She felt confident that she was gonna have it a few weeks ago before she went for vacation, and then we found out that we were bookkeeping overtime for.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And so that created nothing, so hopefully everything will be in place unless we find out that we're doing something wrong again.
Oh, we were, but.
But hopefully as of now, Patty's on vacation next week. The outside auditor was on vacation for 2 weeks. Supposedly July 1st, she'll come back and supposedly they'll wrap everything up. I wanted it done March 31st, so I'm certainly not happy about it at all, but.
None of us are.
But It is what it is. But it is fun being able to say to the state, you know, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, they wrote me back when they responded to my letter, when I said, but you haven't sent me yours. They said, well, hopefully we'll have it to you by July. You know, so they said, you know, they responded and said, we can't give you an extension. By law, you can only do it one, get it to us as soon as possible. And in regards to your report, you know, we hope to have it to you by the middle of July. So I said, okay, great. Now they sent me saying I owe them something, so I'm going to send them something saying you'll get it when, and you still owe me something. And we'll keep a running tab between the two of us.
So, committee reports. The flowers are
Up.
up.
And we need a very, 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 very large, big thank you to Chris Marks and Carol West for stepping up to the plate and doing everything that they did to help facilitate and get this done. And all I can say is, I even said to Carol Connolly today, I said, we weren't going to do flowers. We ended up spending more time on flowers than we were expected to. And I actually said that if it wasn't for Chris and
Chris,
for
did you hang
Carol,
them, or
he worked everything out.
did you hang them, or?
No, Franti's hung them, but he's ordering them tomorrow morning.
So that's what I was wondering too, is,
Did you-
because he brought it up, is do we need to approve the part-time seasonal help for Chris and for
Well, we-
watering flowers?
We technically, we authorized,
No.
CIT, that was already.
No, but the actual individual.
Right.
Gene, do we have to?
Are they going on the town's payroll?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah?
what's the name, we'll do it now, what's his name?
Lloyd
Lloyd Lovett,
Lloyd Lovett,
So
and
could-
do we state the rate?
$10 an hour.
$10 an hour.
And well, no, we're gonna use them also for Chris, so too. Chris has budget for part-time seasonal help, so he will be paid a different rate when he's working for Chris. He's not in the union though.
Well,
We checked that, we went through that with Bill Mullins in terms of,
well, then but you still need to state his rate of pay for
well, we can do
that
that.
work.
Ju-
Yeah,
ju- ju-
so his
just
rate
say-
of pay will be $10 an hour when watering the flowers.
Right.
And his rate of pay for working at the town, when he works for the town highway department, it will be $15 an hour.
It's 15 change.
I would say, was it
I-
1550, I think?
Is it?
I think it was
Right.
15, yeah, like 1540.
Not to exceed 1550.
Right. Yeah, it was like around.
I think it's like 1535 or 1540 sounds correct, actually.
Uh-huh.
So moved.
Second.
Well, Jeff moved it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Motion's carried.
Aye.
Chris, really,
Chris, thank
thank
you.
you for working.
Thank you, Chris.
Doing a great job.
I mean, he really.
And also, thank you to Sue Stegan and Joan
Sure.
Tenuto and,
Very hard, very.
Brontes?
Yeah,
right,
it's all up
yeah,
to the
it's
Brontes. and-
teamwork.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
it's great.
much.
Thank you.
So, yeah, I was actually on the phone with Kevin, when Kevin drove through town and said, oh, the flowers are up.
Oh, wow.
And I was homesick and
And they
Carol.
better be watered tomorrow, it's
and
so
Carol-
hot.
And I was homesick and Carol Connolly, he texted me and said, Susan, the flowers are up.
I drove through this morning about 6:30. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, look at that.
Oh, nice.
Well, I think everybody will appreciate the flowers very much this year. Okay.
My other
so-
committee is historic preservation, and they've started filming the
That
movie.
That movie they're doing?
Yes, The History of New Paltz, the movie, will
Uh-huh.
soon be brought to you
That's great.
by
That's great.
Historic Preservation. And everybody knows that Monday night, we have a joint meeting with the Planning Board, ENCB,
Yeah, I can't make it.
8 o'clock. Okay.
And Michael and I had gone over the agenda, and then
Yes.
it was emailed out to you that if you
Yeah.
guys wanted to.
And I just wrote back the exact questions that I want to ask about conservation easements.
Okay.
I sent that to Kelly today.
Okay.
So it should be
Okay.
a productive
Okay,
meeting.
okay, great. So any other reports or? Okay, well, so we have to do the warrants and the minutes, and the action will get out of here by 11.
Minutes are next.
I'm sorry, what?
Minutes are next.
Minutes. So, do I have a motion to move the May 24th minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm
just
going to
as a-
say aye,
just-
but do you format them on legal size?
Yeah, they're supposed to be on legal.
Okay, because
It's actually really funny too, because when you print it, if you, from the computer, you know, like if I'm on the computer and I go print a copy, it automatically comes out in legal size.
Not on mine.
You know, but yeah, because you probably don't have the ability,
Right.
you know. I'm just saying it's interesting that it's formatted here, that it actually, first time I saw it when I printed it, and I saw, oh, that automatically came out on legal size.
So
You wouldn't
minutes
do it at
are
home 'cause you don't-
required to be on
Is that a
legal
state, is
size?
that
Yeah.
state?
They're in
Because
minute
the-
books on legal paper.
The book
yes.
is legal.
And I will just point out that if you look, you see that we did do the YMCA contract It's in our minutes.
There you go.
It's in our minutes right
And
here.
that's why I found it.
March?
Right, right.
Margins.
Oh, the margin.
Right, okay. And then, do I have a motion to approve the May 17th minutes?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried. So I think we're pretty much up to date on all the
Yeah,
minutes, right?
up to date, yep.
Okay, and then just the warrant?
You want to do the warrant before the prepays?
Do the prepays?
Because I'll make a motion that we approve the warrant.
A second.
Any
I was
discussion?
there. Discussion is that ultimately, Jean and I would like to see bills broken out a little bit more clearly to the actual line that they're from. It's just, the sewer 6 especially, you know, there are so many engineering and attorney fees and stuff like that, that I think it's gonna be hard to go back and figure them all out.
I'm just a little confused though, because when I go through the bills, I actually specifically, like, I'll write lend, grant, blah, 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 blah. So I do that on every single one, and I go with Patty. Actually, when I reviewed the bills, I actually review to make sure, you know, this is a grant, you know, that this is being billed back to the, like, you know, to the,
Well, maybe that happens after we do the vouchers.
No,
No.
that was Susan's handwriting on the side, where
Oh.
it said park.
Okay.
I just tend to be,
you want the actual number of
No.
the budget?
no, I just tend to be more detailed, like every single line item I kind of go after.
Okay, that's okay, but I'm just trying to understand what
But
she's asking.
I'm also looking at the cover sheet of the warrant, okay? And out of $589,000, $382,000 is charged to the A fund. Okay, so one of the things I discovered over this warrant session that Kitty and I just did last weekend is that there's absolutely no engineering and no legal for highway. It's all being absorbed by the A fund.
Which is not Chris's.
And I know it's not Chris's fault, but
You're looking
I'm
at-
just letting you know, I'm not happy about that,
Well,
okay?
actually, the truth is, actually, I had said to Jean, because Jean asked me about that, and I said to Jean, because like I said, I go over every line. So when I got to, you know, you had asked me permission to call Joe and Dave on a couple of things, and I gave you permission. And so when I got the stuff, you know, conversation with Chris Marks, and I said, well, this is being charged to the highway. And that's when Patty said to me, there is no money in the highway budget for legal or engineering. And I was like, oh.
Oh,
So
Okay,
next year's budget
so-
will have to correct it.
before I pop,
That actually shows in my worksheet.
yes.
No money for,
That I have money for.
are you having your you have in your worksheet money for,
And that's
That's
under, that's
what-
in the highway.
In
but it's not.
highway what?
I don't have.
Because you don't have an engineering line. Could you look for me?
Sure, I will.
What?
It actually says on it, engineering, I believe it was 15,000.
Okay, and it's stuck in a different line. Okay,
Well, if
That
you
was
can-
our conversation when we talked about, just the other day when I asked, that I did have it.
oh, that's right, you said you had money in there and everything and stuff, yeah. So then, but it's, well, if you bring in the actual information, I mean, Patty's not
That was
here.
verified by Patty before every worksheet I had, those numbers were verified by.
Okay, well, that's
Um,
interesting because it was verified by Patty that the number, that you had money in the line, but then when I was going over it and said this will get billed back to highway, I was told no. So we will,
I'll show you what I
yeah.
have.
and then
Thank
we'll
you,
deal with it
Chris.
when-
because
We also need to review the Medicare Part B reimbursement for spouses policy.
Yeah, actually, I was very surprised that we're paying the premium of Medicare Part B reimbursement on the spouses. Because I thought Medicare Part B reimbursement, yes, you pay it back in full to the employee. I'm just asking, so this, I noticed that every former employee plus their spouse, we're paying them Medicare Part B, and nowhere have I ever worked, I mean, in government,
you're calling-
have I ever
You were calling Lynn tomorrow, weren't you?
paying for the, yeah, but I have more.
Okay, but I'm just saying when you call.
Well, but I thought that it must be
Kitty
union.
thinks it's a policy.
Well, that's what I was just about to ask.
No, I think it's just for union. but-
No, because some of them were the supervisor's secretary,
I
which
know.
is non-union. Former,
Well,
goes back.
Right.
Well, that was just for half a year. It was over $500.
$500, right, it's a little over $1,000 a year, roughly.
Are we talking about the Glen secretary?
Actually, we're talking about a couple of secretaries. Actually, it's pretty extensive, the number of people they're all living.
They're all what?
Living.
Well, you know what?
We're
That's a
not
good thing
yet.
we're still paying them.
So far, we're not paying any deceased Medicare Part D.
And then, another thing I discovered in my expenditure
Okay,
report.
before we move on to the Medicare Part B, how do you want to I mean, either it's policy or...
We just want to make sure that it is our policy.
And we
Well, I
can
don't know if
change
we need to-
policy.
No, we absolutely can, so I'm trying to get
Yeah.
next steps as a, I mean, well, the personnel policy was not adopted this year because you guys had said it was problematic, and so I was going to adopt a problematic one, and we talked about it having be
Don't we have a personnel policy committee?
Well, Kevin and I got a bunch of copies of them, but
It's gotta be
we gotta
outsourced.
we gotta put a lot of money into this.
Oh my God, are you kidding?
Oh, if you think, let's have a meeting.
Really?
We'll have a meeting.
Are you
We'll have a meeting.
kidding?
We'll go through, I'll
We'll
show
have a
you a
special
really
meeting.
extensive.
I
policy.
know.
No, we
I-
even got
I sent you
communities-
some suggestions.
We have communities smaller than ours, and you should look through them. It's much more than, my attorney was not comfortable with us doing it ourselves, and I will agree with
It's
him.
not something that you do yourself. Somebody else has the template for it. You bring them in, you discuss what you want to do, they print it out, they give it to you, review it, you're done.
And pay them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can
I'm
our-
not comfortable with that,
can our
thank you.
labor
When
attorney
I
help
can,
us
I
do
can
it?
do it. I
No,
can
you
do it in
can't.
20
Is it?
minutes.
No, you
Okay,
can't.
have the attorney review it after you do it, and I will.
You can do it
You know
20
what?
minutes.
I have no problem with
You can do
that.
it 20 minutes, start right now.
No problem with that.
I'm telling you, Gene, Kevin and I have looked at even communities in Ulster
God,
County
I
smaller than ours.
Anything she can do in 20 minutes
Susan and I
has to
can
be
do it on a
better
Saturday
than what
morning.
we have now.
Look, here's
Actually,
what I
I agree
saw.
with you on
Okay.
that.
Here's
That
what
I do agree
Here's what I
with.
saw though. You have some communities where town board members get health insurance. You have some communities where part-time people working 28 and a half hours get health insurance. In other communities, it's 35.
But none of it-
There's an anti-bullying policy, there's an anti-discrimination policy.
But
There's,
that's a little different in the sense that, like, in other words, I'll just say for the town board thing, the policy, that's policies, the town board used to get health insurance for town board members,
Right,
okay?
but
wait,
I'm
let
just
me
using that as an
No,
example.
I
I
know,
don't
but,
care about it.
no, but I'm gonna just say, the town board used to pay town board members, health insurance. And then, Carol Roper, Marion DeBar, Dave Strong, and Helen Carson voted to take health insurance away from town board members. So now the policy is such town board members don't get health insurance. If this town board should choose to want to put that policy back in place, that's their option. But the policy right now is for town board members not to get it, and so that's what the town policy should reflect.
right, I understand that. But you're gonna have a category of 70 items, and you can fill in the blanks, and they'll print the policy for you. I have a funny feeling we have a situation in this town where we don't really know what the
See,
policies
because I
are.
think that's why you can't do it in 20 minutes.
Do
'Cause-
you really know where the policies are?
No, that's the problem with our policy.
I knew
Yeah.
what they were 8 years ago when I first
I
came
know.
on.
Well,
The
I
problem is
know
there's
that
no
there were
records in the room that
union
show-
contracts
Wait,
that
you don't have
override
a copy of
policies.
Yes, union
2000
contracts
So-
Yeah, we
override.
have that,
Oh.
but
But you guys all said that there was a lot, that.
But also, your policy then gets into one area that's very sticky is retirement. And people who are retired, that's also
Yeah,
in
but
your
we have to-
policy. So that also needs to be written
But-
into
But
our
I think
policy,
we
and that's
have
going to be a long discussion.
We have to bite the bullet on that.
I don't know what kind of a discussion there should be, like, people who are retired should be like, it should be like pre-existing, non-conforming. I mean, they already retired under a certain benefit. And then people from this day forward who retire after the date June 21st, 2012 are entitled to this benefit because you change it.
I think our
Okay.
personnel policy is going to be adopted when we go through the budget and we figure out what our policies are going forward.
I
And
don't
I'm
think,
going to make copies of
Okay.
3 of them for each of you, and you can look at them, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, so I mean, actually, in essence, I think, Jim, from your perspective of having worked with so many people, managed so many people, and doing so many personal policies, it's very easy to
I
go
live
back.
and breathe the personnel
Which
policy.
I
It's at my
understand.
fingertips
I think-
every
I
day.
think though, where the disconnect is right now is Jeff and Kevin were looking at actually revising, changing, and redoing policy as opposed to just putting together a new revised policy book. And so that's
Can I
where the,
just
is
say
that where
that-
there's more, because you're looking at how.
Our policy manual is thin.
Yes,
Right.
it's the-
It's thin.
and that,
It's
and you know
this
what,
thin.
that's okay, because the main thing that we need to do is to get a policy adopted so that as we go into negotiations, remember, we have no current contracts with any of our,
We know
right? And it's important that our personnel policy be the place that we start to establish a policy so that we can go back into negotiations.
So for budgetary reasons too, we put
That's-
everything in place going forward. And tonight, we didn't even know if,
2025.
I mean, in the policy
Stacy was
manuals,
very clear.
in the policy manuals I saw, nobody working 20 hours a week was eligible for health insurance.
Absolutely
That's what I
not.
thought. So I don't know where that came
It
from.
was
I don't-
20,
I remember
28
25
and
too.
more.
You're working 20 hours a week, you're not entitled to paid holidays, accrued vacation.
Yeah, but that doesn't
But
happen here.
Gene, you're talking about what's happened here.
I know, I understand
But
that.
that's because
I'm
our
talking about the
bookkeeper
real world.
Our payroll person doesn't know our policy.
Well, see, and now here's the
Not
other
the
problem now
fault of
too.
the
Do we now
policy.
have an assistant sitting up at the community center now getting benefits? Because the whole point we had that discussion was that she had to be underneath the level of benefits, and now is she working 20 hours?
Oh.
She better not be,
We-
because-
We need to get the existing policy out in front of us.
Well, why
Okay.
don't we do this, just as a, Jim, why don't we get the existing policy, you first, you take a look at it and everything and see in terms of what you think can be done to get us to a point of a starting point, and then.
Let's have a special meeting.
We can do
We
that.
can have
I
a
think
special
we
meeting.
should
Get a
do that.
special
We
meeting.
should
And
do
I
that.
think it won't be a starting point, really, because there's so much to do with it. You're gonna say to yourself, but you might be able to grant the whole thing, but it might be easier to bring in this firm that's done these for other towns to help us talk about things that maybe we haven't, or we need to talk about, and might help us and counsel us to do what you said, which is to prepare us for where we have to go.
Well, that's,
Negotiations.
honestly, I don't think that that's gonna, first of all, the negotiations with the union, you're starting with the base of the contract that you have now and stuff, and I don't see how the union contract negotiations will be able to wait till we possibly get a revised personnel policy in place that.
Well, they can't wait, but if, I mean, there are so many new healthcare options out there.
That
If we can start incorporating those, you know,
Right.
we've
Well,
got
that-
a chicken and an egg.
Well,
and-
that's already being, that has already, I mean, Jeff, we already know, that was the big thing that Bill Wallens had said from the beginning.
Exactly.
Was that we should be
Now
doing.
it's June.
No, I know, and he already has started looking at a bunch of stuff, and we already had, Jeff and I had a meeting with the preliminary meeting with the Teamsters to sort of say, we want to get negotiations going, but we're still trying to get on top of the budget, and let's give you a reality check of where the town is really in place and all that kind of stuff. So we had our first meeting with the Teamsters, at least just to lay out the groundwork and give them a reality check of the fact that, they, you know, things are not that
The thing
great.
is, if we
The
have
police, we
these
haven't had a,
new-
we haven't, I'll just finish real quick.
Yeah.
Myself, Bill Wallens, and Anthony Safaro are going to try to get together next week, because Bill and I feel it's probably better for us to have an initial conversation with Anthony, because there's a lot of grievances. There's the fourth sergeant, and whether or not he gets hired now or doesn't get hired. Contractually, we might be obligated to have to bring him in, but we don't want to bring him in before we start dealing with the police thing. So we're gonna have a conversation of just sort of like a reality check with Anthony, also of where we're going, you know, in the future kind of stuff. I'm not saying we don't have to get these conversations going with the policy by any means, and having a special meeting is
It's
probably a
just-
great idea.
The only thing I'm interested in is that we have a lot of new healthcare options that are much more affordable for the town and a good deal for the employees. And if we don't get them into our personnel policy, we can't
But you have-
offer them.
No, but you have to, just so you do know, to step back. At the meeting, the Teamsters guy told us about a great policy that he knew about, that he wasn't sure if we could get in or not, and he was checking that out. And he, when he called Bill and told Bill he was gonna send him this stuff, so Bill's vetting that out.
And actually, I did
But-
speak to our policy, I spoke to actually 2 different insurance brokers, and that actually is not that good of a deal.
The one that the Teamsters was talking about.
Yeah, and actually, if you speak to either our broker, you can speak to Paul, or speak
I'm
to...
leaving that to the two of you.
Yeah, and Kevin, you got a discussion with Terry.
So-
But
There's
you
a
know
reason
what,
why
but
it's
Kitty,
not a good deal.
but Kitty,
It's very
regardless,
good.
any health insurance policy that we choose to go to still has to be negotiated. We can adopt it for everybody else, but it's still a negotiation with the
Right,
union.
but you know what, if we get it into our personnel policy, it will be
Yeah.
made public, people will see what a great deal it is, the employees will have a nice option, and we can save some money.
Well, Bill's coming in next week, so I can find out from him.
And one other thing too, it will also, I think, help us because we're talking about consolidation. So when we're reviewing our policy, we might want to also consider what the village has in effect to see if we can start the process of trying to bridge that as well.
Why don't we
as part
just
of the
give away
remit.
What?
Give away the farm
What do you mean?
financially.
Just the policy, the policy of the village?
I think that, things are very generous.
Well, then I'm sure if Kevin and Jeff looked at the village policy, they'd
Generous.
say, I think not.
Generous, there's a difference between generous and not economical. And I think what Kitty's saying is, we have options that we should have in place already that
Well-
would have saved the town money this year.
Okay, but you know
nobody-
what? Something really, really simple, like changing a newer health insurance plan name in the personnel policy. Like in the personnel policy, I wouldn't even identify the health insurance we have, because then you have to update your personnel policy every time you change the plan.
You could limit it to 1 or 2 options though.
But do we even offer 2 options? Or
We don't have to
do,
anymore, though.
do we offer 2 options to non-union members? Because if you're in a union, it's outlined in your union contract.
It's
mean,
outlined in your
this-
union contract, the way it was. Going forward, you can negotiate whatever you need to negotiate.
But in our town employee policy, I don't know the answer to the question you just asked, and it's really important.
Oh, which
Do
one?
do we have to list all the available policies, or, I don't know how to answer that in our policy, but it sounds like
No, there's
you
certain,
have some
well, there's certain
suggestions.
policies that you need to have on the books just by law, like Department of Labor. Like you need to have a sexual harassment policy, you need to have a number of things that came out. You just have to have them.
But do you have to
But they don't-
specify the exact healthcare options? Do you have to name the healthcare policy in your
No,
personnel?
what you need in there is it contributory or non-contributory?
And how you're eligible, when you're eligible. all
Yeah.
those things.
Well, we can, I mean, what's your pleasure, Gene? You want to take this stab?
Gene.
Or do you want to schedule a special meeting, or?
I think we want to do both. I would like if Kevin can forward, yeah.
I'll forward you what I pulled. I have-
Is our existing policy, does that exist in an
Yes.
email
Well, it's in a little
document?
booklet.
Yeah, I don't, actually, I asked for, I don't think it's electronic. I think that's how old it
I
is.
think it was typed.
Oh,
I
it's definitely
agree.
typed. It's
It's Janet.
probably Janet.
So we could, no, I know that under Don Wyland, we revised it.
Oh.
I know when I
Remember?
first joined the board, it was
Remember?
almost ready to be, it was almost ready to be presented.
Well, you
No, it
Is it
was
possible
presented and
it's
it was
in one of those
adopted and it
computers?
was retracted, if you recall.
Oh, I recall it very,
Yeah.
very well.
So I
recall-
believe there is an electronic
But
version
actually,
of it.
it was that was,
That was like
it was in the,
2003.
but that was actually the organizational meeting. And it was a personal policy, and it got changed, instead of it getting changed under healthcare, it got changed
Under
in a different.
retirement.
It got changed in retirement, and so
Right.
it never got picked up
Right.
until
Right.
after you adopted it.
So I believe that it does exist in
But
an
it
electronic
didn't,
format.
but that was the only thing that didn't get updated or revised, only that got changed.
Yeah. So, although, who knows where it is now?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Okay,
so can we
you're gonna
scan
send
it?
everything,
and-
well, anything can be scanned, so that's not a
I'm
problem.
gonna put it in your mailboxes because they're thick.
Okay, so you're gonna put everything in Jean's mailbox. Jean is gonna look at it, Jean's gonna call me to meet her for coffee for Saturday morning to show me how we can do it in 20 minutes. And then we're gonna schedule a special meeting.
I'll take a bet on that.
And then we'll schedule a special meeting to go from there.
So,
But we're not hiring anybody.
did we have a
anybody just yet
motion
until-
and a second?
Yeah, now just have to vote.
That's where we've
Just
gotten.
waiting.
We're on the warrant.
But
We
this
haven't
was an
had-
important discussion.
Now, and we didn't vote on the warrant yet?
We didn't vote on the warrant, no,
So,
I'm just kidding.
and while we're still in discussions, I think we do need to have a discussion, and I think you might need to send it to, actually, we don't need to go into it in detail, it is in here. I would like to have the board request our supervisor to send a letter to our police chief. They had a computer problem, and they spent,
Something, sorry.
Okay.
Green bug.
Yes.
Still there?
they spent
Yes,
almost...
it was a
they
computer
spent-
crash.
Well, it doesn't matter what it was, but it's gonna make them blow out their budget. So
It did.
our chief needs to help, needs our help, maybe needs to have a special meeting with the town board, but it's going to put them way over budget on their office line, because they just spent $10,000 on computers. I know it's not their fault that the computers crashed, but we don't have any money. So we need to work with Joe to find $10,000 of savings. So I don't know, are you comfortable sending a letter? Would you like it to come from the whole board?
Sure.
Memo, I mean,
You know what?
would you like to have a special meeting with us for us to help him come up with ways to find it? But that's $10,000 that he does not have and we don't have.
Well, he's probably going to be seeing some savings. Myself, Ira, Bill Wallens, and Joey met the other day to have a meeting to start to identify the issues that are problematic with the police commission, town board, police department, blah, 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 to come back to you guys, for that joint meeting to go over things. You remember you said identify the stuff that, whatever. So we went through that, and there were some interesting highlights in it, just even in terms of the police commission's ability, involvement even in the budget alone and stuff. So there was a lot of things that needed to be clarified, and, we were working on it, and there's some more that still needs to be clarified, and then we'll come back to the board with, clarity, and then have that joint meeting and go through things. But in the meeting, because a number of officers are retiring, or like one officer just is retired.
We have officers retiring, we have officers on compensation, which isn't reducing our budget.
No, but the
Yeah.
officers that are retiring,
We have officers
there's
retiring.
one or two officers that are retiring at a much, much higher rate, and some are coming in, so we already, I think
We
just
have
sitting there, I think we
somebody on
identified
this-
$36,000 just sitting in that one meeting that we were gonna be saving. But I'll
We
go through it with,
officers who are out sick, and they're waiting for their
Yeah.
papers from the state, and then they're gonna be gone.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I'll
that
double
could
check,
be
I mean,
years.
we'll go through it, but I do know
No,
Jeff that in the meeting, that we
it was
saw
out
that
there.
it was maybe 36 in saving because of some personnel changes, so
Okay,
we'll go through that.
And see, I would say take the $10,000 out of contingency, because this was not something they could afford.
No, I understand we need the money.
We're
I mean,
talking
just-
about
but-
the police department who needs to be
Oh, I totally agree they need it. I'm saying
running.
it's not his fault, but we
Okay,
need to come up
so-
with $10,000. I don't
Okay,
believe
but
we
I
have.
also think,
She's saying take it out
I'm
of contingency.
ready to just, let's see how his budget plays out, and
No, I
Well, that
agree
one-
with Jeff in this sense. Look, we're looking at the rec budget, we're looking to try to save.
yeah, but
So-
Susan just said that there's probably
I
a
know,
good
but-
chance that there's 10,000 in
36.
savings.
The letter
36.
doesn't hurt to encourage people, when they can, to find savings.
And you're much more confident in contingency fund than I am.
Uh,
You're a lot more confident than I am. I'm not against our contingency fund is, I have no idea the health of our contingency fund, and now we're just spending 25,000 more on legal that we have
Right.
zero budget for. So
Right.
your exuberance to spend money that we may not fully understand, we don't fully
No,
understand.
you know what, I'm just saying that if you wanted to compensate for that $10,000 computer crash.
I mean, just so you know,
because
I would be saying the
Kitty and I
same
saw
thing.
the voucher,
Right.
and, you know, that was pretty catastrophic.
I
But
would
on the
be-
other hand, the option was, okay, I reviewed those bills, and if it was any other outside computer company, we would have been charged twice as much.
I am no,
That-
you're confusing me by saying that the expense was invalid. That is not what I'm saying. If Chris had an unexpected 10,000, I'll use Chris because he's sitting here, Chris had a $10,000 unexpected expense that was not budgeted for, I'd be saying the same thing. It is not about the computers, it is not about it being the police, it is none of that. We have a department. I've sat here for 5 years with a dysfunctional board where no one was being held accountable. I'm asking that we hold the department head accountable. What is wrong with that? I'm asking that we send them and say, look, we understand that everyone's gonna have a problem. I'm just simply saying you have spent $10,000.
Find
Do
a
you-
way to
I
save
think-
it.
Where are we getting
I think what
$10,000 in savings?
Jeff
It's
is
nice that
saying-
at 25,000 feet that we may have these $35,000 in savings, that's great. So maybe that is the answer, but I wanna know that there is an answer. Okay, next
Okay.
month, we may have a sewer blow up.
All right.
And then
No,
going to go
no,
to
that's
our sewer guy.
fine.
That's what I'm looking for.
Fine,
Okay.
could you write a letter? Could we move
No,
on?
I'm not writing a letter because I understand what Jeff's saying.
Or send an email and just
No, no,
copy
no,
us
no,
on it.
no,
I
no,
don't
no,
care,
no. The
just-
point is, but both of you are right in the sense that at the end of the day, contingency is there to take care of emergencies that happen, and that's why you have contingency, okay? And it's not the chief's fault, and it's nobody else's fault when an emergency happens. However, because of the fact that we've been having conversations about the budget, we've been talking about his budget, because we talked about some specific things, and we talked about some savings we might start to see, you know, I just feel a little more confident right now that I think that we can find that money within his budget without it being a problem, so therefore, I can
Look at the
easily
gas
say to
lines.
him, right now, I think everybody knows that, or if you haven't read it in the paper, that there's a terrible tragedy that happened in New Paltz, you're all aware of that? Okay, so right now, I'm not gonna let them deal with the tragedy that they're dealing with. But next week, Jeff, I have no problem with telling the chief that the board is looking for you to absorb that $10,000 within your budget.
I never said looking to absorb. I was simply saying, I would have you send this to any single department that had a unforeseen expenditure due to emergency. It doesn't matter. I'm just simply saying, I just need all of our departments to be looking at, here's your expense. We've asked this of all of them.
And I know
So
Jeff,
I need
and
to-
the only thing I'm
Just to make sure
saying
he
is,
knows that there's $10,000. It's a
Again,
huge expense. It's a big, big hit.
They all know, I don't think there's a department head that doesn't know that this board is watching every single solitary expenditure. And people have commented many a time, even, you know, whatever. I think people, because of the extensiveness of, they know they get a phone call all the time, okay, and they get denied things all the time, that I think every department head is very careful about what they put in regards to expenses, because they know if I'm gonna either send it back, or like, for example, I'm gonna bring it to you guys. So like with the enhanced programming, I decided that wasn't for me to make a decision on it. I'm coming back to the board to say, okay, I was told you guys put it in the budget last year. I didn't necessarily believe that you guys might have known it was put in the budget last year. So instead of me making the decision, I was
Okay.
coming here to say to you guys, what do you think? So I know whether to approve it or not, so.
Okay, I think that the sort of bottom line on this is that we've been asked to try, whenever possible, to run our government more like a business. And if this kind of catastrophic loss occurred in a business, you would have to cut back on some other expense line. And so I guess all we're asking is that when the police are free of this awful thing that they're working on right now, it would be good to just send them a memo saying that we're, you know, we understand this $10,000 failure is nobody's fault, and we're very glad that there's a possibility of a $35,000 reduction in staffing, which we you know, expect will help reduce the impact of this $10,000 loss? Just so that the $35,000 savings doesn't just get spent on something else.
Well, it's not gonna get spent on something else, because if it's not in the budget, it won't.
We're not gonna spend it on something else, let me.
And I'm not gonna spend it on
Okay.
something else either, so,
Because if you wanna go for $25,000, I'll cut it, you wanna include it, take it out of the chief's budget, give us back the refund, the $30,000 refund that we get, that we don't see. I'm just saying, I agree, there's
Yeah.
money.
No,
in-
let's, I
no, 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 let's not,
can't go back. I
it's
can't
okay,
go back.
I understand what
It's just not right.
no, what I was trying to say, and now, let's not get into this, because at the end of the day, it's all one goddamn budget.
You're right.
Excuse my language, okay, but there has a tendency to be that if money gets saved in one budget and it goes back to the general fund, department heads feel resentful that it should go back to their budget. It's all one budget, it's all at the end of the year, that money's gonna help us next year, and so it's
Absolutely.
all just a shell game anyway, okay?
Yes, I
So
agree with you, Susan.
it's not even worth having this conversation. It's just a matter
Okay.
of the fact that we're all watching very closely this budget, and we will continue to watch it really closely. End of story.
Can you
Is-
say all approved? Can you say, we
Lies.
still haven't had a vote,
Right.
On the board.
right? We still have not had a vote on it.
You made a
Everybody
motion,
keeps
I
having
second.
I
another
know,
point
well,
of
no,
view.
we're bringing up
so-
points on it, yeah.
Is there any other point
Half an
anybody
hour
wants to make?
later.
No other discussion?
Okay, who would like to move the board? You did, you
No,
did.
We did.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion so carried? Can I have a motion to end this wonderful meeting?
No, we have to,
No.
no,
Oh, we still have more prepays.
we have prepays.
Sniffin thing?
Yes,
thought
what
we
this is, no, the NIFIN thing is much more expensive, is a lot of money. It's about over $100,000. The reason why you have the prepay in here is because Patty's on vacation. She wanted to get it ready because we're not sending the money out, it's being held, but she wants it approved by us because when the next delivery comes, it's in the contract you guys approved that you pay within a certain amount of time.
So this is a
And
second
so,
delivery.
it's a second delivery, the money won't get paid, and when the delivery comes, it's just that once it does come, we're obligated to pay within a certain amount of time, and so Patty didn't want to put us in a position to have to wait, the NIFIN, for them to wait a
I make
whole
a
nother
motion
month.
to approve Niffen Builders for $49,400.
Second.
All in favor?
I make a motion to approve Callahan Industries for $8,487.74 and Global Montello Group Corporation for $7,320.90.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carried.
Aye.
Stalker.
I would like to ask if Kevin remembers whether or not on the Stalker fabrication, you guys had some comparable bids on the $2,200 expense for the custom railing?
I
Or
think not,
anything in the
because
body?
I think it was emergency repair.
Anything in the body? Did it say emergency repair on
Should
your
have.
thing?
I believe it did. I'd have to go back and pull last month. I do believe he did put emergency repair on that. And I do know he had several others that no one would come and look at it. He had one guy come and look and never came back
I
again.
don't think you could use the pool without it.
Yeah, you can't open the pool without it. Absolutely. I did go back and check. You can't get Board of Health.
I know that,
approval.
but this is the railing.
Yeah, that was
we
the
were-
railing that got stolen, that
I
was
know,
the handicap railing.
and after we talked to him once about it, it's pretty clear, then, I talked to him about it, and I said, oh, well, since that man that was coming that night, because it was an emergency, I saw him like 2 weeks later, so now it wasn't an emergency anymore, and I said, now I want bids.
Well, the emergency part was it had to be specially fabricated,
I understand that.
which takes time.
Do
So
you
what-
think I'm just a girl?
Gene, seriously.
Nobody
What's
thinks
your
that.
point? What's your point on this one?
Because we couldn't
My
open the
point
pool
is,
without
I'm
it.
I am asking if you know if he followed procedure and he had any quotes attached to the initial voucher, because this is just for the balance.
No, it didn't because it was an emergency repair.
Now,
It
is
wasn't
it possible
required.
that we did not follow the emergency repair policy correctly? That is very possible, yes. but it was
You know what,
emergency.
I really, nobody else remembers us talking about this
Yeah.
and saying he was
No.
supposed to get us bids. And if he couldn't get us bids, he was at least to show us an example that he tried.
He did try, that I do know.
I
had
understand he
conversations.
tried.
That's the proof. And actually, the truth, I do remember specifically, it started off as an emergency repair, Then it all of a sudden didn't seem like it had to be an emergency repair because it was taking a long time and whatever. So it did go from
Because
emergency
there was
repair
another-
to like, whatever. But the truth is that he did call a number of people because you did say we wanted bids. I do know that he called a number of
I
people.
know, I even spoke to him about a couple of them.
And Jeff spoke to him and whatever.
I told
And
him.
absolutely, at the end of the day, there was only one person, was it full fittings?
No, I
Or-
can't remember who even.
There was only one person
The one
ultimately
can only do
who
it.
came down and was willing to do it, and nobody else was willing to do it.
This is the
So-
guy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Stalker was the only one
So
willing to
we
do it.
approved it as an emergency repair?
Well, maybe
Initially.
not, but the point is,
Pretty sure we did.
he can, you know what?
Is
I'll
this
pull
this-
it, I'll pull last month's, and also I will talk to
Is
Bill.
this something that we asked the village to reimburse us for half of?
I did.
Yes. And?
What was the answer?
Really? We submitted a formal request?
I met with my,
No, you were gonna meet with Ariana and Stewart about
I
it.
did. I made a list after talking to Bill. That was on it. A new pool slide was on it. A new pump for the pool was on it because they expected it to go bad this year. And I gave him the list and he approved, well, obviously the blacktopping was approved, and they approved contributing $1,000 to motion lights for the pool. So that you don't have to leave the lights on all night long. Motion sensitive lights, they approved contributing to that, and that was it.
That's a
all
good
they agreed.
idea.
So,
That's a good idea.
but so it seems to go back to the same situation that started when we were talking about the contract and whether we would sign it or not, and trying to have clear procedure with policy and whatever, of the fact of like what Kitty and Jeff said all the time, that emergencies happen, the town ends up paying for it, the village doesn't do it, so it doesn't seem like we got somewhere, but we're still not there.
We have a start. If, for example, the slide, maybe they didn't believe it was an emergency. All right, it's like that.
But this was an
Maybe
emergency,
they-
this is
no.
not a, this,
I think what we have to do is, when things happen, and if we feel they're emergency repairs, we have to submit a request for reimbursement to the village under that provision. This was just a regular repair that we wanted during the year.
not this.
Yes.
No, not that.
But-
So
but they
can we
refused to
submit
do-
this
But how
at
come they
our
refused- how come
joint
they refused
meeting
to do
on
that, though?
Tuesday night? Can we just submit that request at our joint
Is it-
meeting
is
on
it
Tuesday
Is it
night?
still an emergency repair?
We could not open the pool
Pool
without
without
doing
So
it.
then we should submit it to them, as
Right.
long as it's an emergency repair.
Okay, so now,
Then
If you
don't-
can't open the pool,
I agree with you.
I
So
mean-
it can't go from an emergency to a non-emergency repair, right?
But I thought you could open the pool because you had another railing
No, it
to
turns
get
out we
into
could-
the pool.
No, Board of Health wouldn't approve it because you need to have that railing to get down. That
Okay, then
need-
I was
has to have-
misinformed.
Yeah, has to have that railing.
Well, then you guys
So, Kitty,
need to
I'll
keep me better
resubmit that.
informed.
let's bring
I
it
guess
with
we
us
do.
on Tuesday night.
Okay, well,
You're not
No,
just
because it was Bill who told me in there. I was in there.
just very quickly, you were, did you guys all get a email asking you if you wanted anything specific on the agenda for the town village meeting? Does anybody want, because I only put on one community, I didn't know whether to put one Memorial Pool or not. I thought everything was worked out with Memorial Pool, but it's obvious the Memorial Pool has to be put back on
Well,
the
we
agenda.
need to have more discussions on Moriello Pool about next year too, because we need it to be planning our budget season, and they need to be doing their budget next year.
We gotta pay it, right? How's
So-
that working out?
It's not
That-
paid
that-
yet,
that was- I
it's-
thought that was done like,
It's not, how's it working out down there?
Still working. Got
Yeah.
Got the pad thing, got the beginning paved,
Yeah.
got the grass pit.
The rocks are working out great.
We're working, we're getting our costs back, you know. It looks like we spent about $20,000 so far between the village and the town.
If you haven't been down there, it looks great though. There's a path that
Bill
goes.
and I are working on figuring out the parking problem and what we can do, to make it something within our budget function this year that we can add on to next year, that way it's any money. We both got busy with other projects, so we had to kind of leave off for a little bit and regroup.
okay, so I guess we have to put Memorial Pool on for next week. We have to talk about this repair, and then we have to, which I guess I should take for tomorrow. What's the total amount? Because we should be billing them for the total amount.
Well, half,
Yeah, I know, they have.
950, oh, the total.
$2,280
Was the total amount?
was the total amount.
Yeah. No,
And so,
2,880.
So-
2,880.
so we need to put that on the agenda, and then you're saying that we're gonna need slides.
We need one slide, and that's gonna cost, right now, the least expensive bid he has right now is $3,200.
I'm concerned about this thing that Ira brought to us about the handicapped entrance
Yeah.
into each pool.
I also brought it to the village, I don't want to
Okay,
think, I
so-
know that part of it too, so I brought it to them too.
I mean, we need to
It was about
get
$6,000.
6,000.
Yeah, they, all the figures and the people that did it and how much
So
it
the
cost
village
and
needs to
everything else.
be-
Average cost is about $6,000.
Okay.
I'm not asking that.
And you may be
You know
exempt.
what I mean?
They probably are, yeah.
Can we put together
It's like a dunking stool.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Sure, whatever you need.
I can see the value in that. There are people who can't get any kind of exercise except in the water and can't get into the water.
You know, it's,
It's a lot of money.
you know, like I said, it's, I don't know, it's just, you gotta have to, I mentioned you have to have a plastic wheelchair.
Consider the slide an emergency repair?
Well, it's either that or you remove it,
Now,
which is
there
what
we
he
go,
said.
John McKellen.
Okay,
Sure, well,
it's 11:30. How about a motion to adjourn?
No, because first of all, you didn't do this for prepay.
Because we were talking about the village.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want to pay that? Or do you want to hold off and see if the village is going to pay half?
Well,
Well, you had another issue too, so let's hold on.
No, I don't have
No,
to, this
it's a
is just for the balance of the
Yeah.
$950. I don't have to make the motion. This is just to pay the balance, to pay the man for the work he did.
so,
I was just asking a question because I didn't audit vouchers last month. I thought somebody remembered.
Well,
so,
we could do the prepaid now, or we could do the prepaid next week. I mean, look, we're going to, why don't we just approve it and we'll deal with the village after? It's going to have to get paid, right?
no, I think we
Rather
should
not?
hold it over
Okay.
till next week.
Sure.
Okay.
So,
So I'm gonna-
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do
What
some
about-
homework on it.
What else,
Done.
Gene, is there any others?